Okay, commissioners, it is 9 o'clock. I will call this meeting to order. The chair notes there is a quorum present. We'll do the flag salute really quick and then we'll go into executive session.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to move right into an executive session under ORS 192.6602H. The Gilliam County Court will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602H, which allows the court to meet in executive session to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff will be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room, or if attending online, to remain in the public virtual meeting room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to the audience in person and in the public virtual meeting room. Okay, so. We're recording, right, Miranda? Yes, okay. So we're gonna go right into 3.0, which is additions and revisions to the agenda.
I would like to add a discussion on order 2023-01.
Okay.
And a discussion of installing an EV station at the new bus barn. It's going to be constructed. And, discussion about the sanctuary status of Gilliam County as a sanctuary county.
Okay, so EV status or EV charging at 7.8, since that's for bus barn, we discussed it before. Okay. Bus barn. 8, okay, let me just add this, 8.3. For the, can you say the last one again?
And
Sanctuary
just
status?
discussion about the sanctuary, the county status is a sanctuary county. Yeah.
Okay. And then for the court order, where would you like, is that an immediate
Let's
thing?
do it immediately.
Okay. So we will do a discussion on number.
So Sanctuary County, 7.9.
So Sanctuary County is 8.3, since we haven't talked about that before under new business. The charging for the bus barn comes in at 7.8. The order is immediate. So we are on that. Order number 2023-01. Commissioners, as you have seen, there are new court orders that have been posted to the website. Is there a motion on those, or do you want further
Yeah,
discussion?
in order to remove transfer probate to circuit court within order 2023-01, I move to adopt order number 2024-01 as presented and order number 2024-02 as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt order number 2024-01 as presented and order number 2020, oops, let me rephrase that. Order number 2024-01 as presented and order number 2024-02 as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Excuse me.
We're talking right now and voting. Go ahead.
I'd like to know when that was posted to the website.
It's on the website now. We're voting. Go ahead.
Excuse me.
We are voting. Go ahead, Pat.
Go ahead and vote.
Aye.
Point of order, if you
You
are
need
about
to-
to make a decision, the public ought to have an opportunity to at least say thank you or
otherwise.
I need you to not interrupt while we're in the middle of conducting business, Denny.
Aren't we part of that business?
This is the business meeting of the three of us, so you don't get to stand up in the middle and interrupt us as we're voting.
Why are we here then if we can't be heard?
Are these new orders?
These are new
And
orders.
then shouldn't it be under new business? And
Please.
shouldn't we have a right to see them?
They are on the website.
Well,
Please
they
take a
weren't.
seat.
Yeah, I did not, when were they posted?
Guys, we're voting.
Okay,
You can't vote.
No,
Vote.
you
This
need
is a
to,
railroad.
you need to sit down, please.
No, I will not sit down. You need to hear from your public. I'm just one here from the public.
You need to sit down. You're interrupting the governing body from doing its
You're
business.
just allowing us to have free speech and talk about the order. If you're gonna pass an order, we need to be able to.
I need you both
Have
to
input.
sit down. The county court is conducting business. Please sit down.
Is this gonna be on YouTube?
It's live streaming right now. Please sit down.
No, I mean, is it gonna be on YouTube or are you going to edit it out?
Please sit down. You are disrupting county business right now. You
Let's-
need to sit down. Okay, we are in the middle of a vote. All those in favor?
Aye again.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, we're moving into,
May we ask what the content of the order is?
yes.
Yeah.
Consider approval of order number 2024-01, rescinding order number 2023-01. Consider approval of order number 2024-02, transferring juvenile court jurisdiction from the county court to the Gilliam County Circuit Court. All right, we're moving on. Let's see, 4.0 is hearing to receive public comment on ordinance number 2024-01, fiscal year 2024 to 2025, Gilliam County Weed Control Special Assessment. This is the time duly set and advertised for a public hearing in the matter of ordinance number 2024-01, an ordinance authorizing a special weed assessment within Gilliam County for fiscal year 2024 through 2025. The rate for fiscal year 2024 through 2025 has been proposed at 7 cents per acre. Hearings are conducted in accordance with ORS 569.175 through 569.620. This hearing is for the purpose of gathering evidence as to the need for, identifying who will benefit from, and taking public input on the special weed assessment. This is a legislative hearing. All those in attendance that wish to testify are asked to sign the attendance sheet. All those who are participating via Zoom or phone that wish to testify are asked to seek recognition from the chair. State your full name and address for the record. The hearing is now open. Let me just go into the Zoom. Make sure there's nobody in there. Okay, so we will start off first with a staff report from Doug. And basically, Doug, all we are really asking for is any updates you might want to give on what's going on with the weed department, sort of where things are.
Right now, we're on the north end of the county doing, fairground treatments. We've got, quite a bit of the far north end of the county done, and we're working our way this way, so. We started about probably a month ago, and then we ran into inclement weather with snow and freezing, so. This is the first time that we've actually gone again since then, but.
Can you guys
People
please
who are
be
doing
quiet
the
back
side-
there?
If the side conversations continue, I'll ask
I'm
you.
sorry, I was just trying to find where it's posted. and
Yeah,
I
I
cannot
heard
find
that the
where it's
link is
posted.
not working, so I'm going to
Thank
take
you.
this out so that I can work on the computer here for a second.
Excuse me.
I mean, Doug was talking.
The
And
Army
it's
Corps wants to set up a contract with us to do, we've done stuff in the past for them, but it's kind of got to the point where people change and we've kind of lost that. Well, the people that are there now again want us to take care of the Philippi Park and basically Umatilla Lake, which is a large area around between Washington and Oregon. It's mostly on the Gilliam County side is where we're looking at, but And we've also been contacted about flowering rush on the Columbia, helping them scout for it. So,
Is that the new concern?
well, kinda, it's one that started, way upriver and it's working its way down. It is, we do have it in Gilliam County now. But
That's the
it's
stuff
like,
that's in the
the only
water,
time
right?
you can actually find it is like between July and August, when it finally starts to bloom. And you can see the white flowers. Other than that, it's really tough to spot. And the only way it's,
Is it hand removal or?
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
scuba divers and,
Oh, it is the one you were talking about that's in the water.
yes.
Okay,
And
the last meeting.
working on a new contract with BLM. Other than that, Mike's working out really well. Very good. I'm lucky to have him, so,
Yeah, excellent.
yeah.
And then we lost our signal on the smart board.
I'm re-uploading that document.
Okay.
We need to pause.
Document is that?
Do we need to pause?
Nope, we're good. Folks can still see us on the Zoom, so, let's go into, public testimony. Any questions for Doug before we go into that?
None from me.
We just have one person that's, signed up so far, and that's Mike. Mike, do you wanna give some testimony?
Michael Weimer, 64486 Clem Road, Arlington, Oregon. And I will say, I'm not sure whether I'm for or against this because I don't know how the money's been spent here in the recent past. I've supported it for a long time and it's done good things. And I see a trend now in our county with the weeds really getting out of control. Or especially our very noxious weeds, like skeletal weed. And this is something that I'd like to see where this money for the 7 cents an acre is being spent. The staff report, I couldn't tell anything in that was just given about where this money is being spent. Thank you.
Did anybody miss signing up that wanted to give testimony? We are gonna hold over the hearing, so if you wanna testify in 2 weeks, that's fine too. Okay, so the hearing, is hereby recessed. This hearing will be continued to March 20th, 2024 at 10:05. That will be held at the Gronquist Building in Arlington, Oregon. So we will continue that discussion, and thanks for being here, Doug. Okay, we're gonna move on into correspondence and public comment. I'm gonna start with correspondence first, and then we'll go into public comment. So these are all on the county's website as well. The first one is, some good news, that comes via the chamber from Brooklyn, which is that we have a new, home-based childcare, starting up here in Condon. And so the county's partnership with the chamber for the small business grant program funded for Maria to rehab or sort of create a classroom, I think, in their garage. And there's beautiful space. There's pictures in there. Anyway, so I think there's some finishing touches that they're doing with permitting and some other stuff, but that will hopefully be open and serving young kids and families here shortly.
Open house tomorrow, 5 to 7. I would have said that out there. It's good to show your support for the community, even if you don't have kids. It's a huge win for us in Condon. So tomorrow at Maria's place there from 5 to 7.
So is she taking some of the kids that are like after school?
She has
Dylan?
openings. I'm not sure what they are.
Okay.
But she ages 6 weeks to 9 years is what she's able to do. She did pass her state permits on Tuesday. So she's set and ready to go. Very good.
Well,
Very grateful.
in a comment on the website, under correspondence, it has the consent agenda and there's no correspondence.
Oh,
So it got attached to the wrong, I don't know how you do that, but consent agenda is under the consent agenda and it's also under correspondence and there's no correspondence under
okay, well,
correspondence.
we'll get that fixed so people can see that. The next one is a special projects grant, the final report from the Condon Scholarship Foundation. We'll have a lot more of these coming in as we near the fiscal year. And then there's an operational grant program final report from Frontier Casa. So those will all be posted to the website shortly if they're not currently. And so if folks want to see where those dollars were spent, that's the transparency and accountability that we've incorporated. In addition, I wanted to flag, I did not get this into the packet because it came in on Monday evening. There was also a letter from Meg Atkins to the court. And we'll add that as well, but it was in support of the Hunker's Nest daycare funding request, which we will be taking up later in the meeting. So I wanted to flag that that's in there. When we get the correspondence posted, we will include that one as well. Okay, so that's what I have under correspondence. Under public comment, individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time. Speakers are asked to sign in on the public comment sheet or via chat on Zoom. Wait to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. For folks who are dialing in on their phone, just *6 to unmute yourself. If obviously if you're here on Zoom on your computer, it's the lower left-hand side of your screen. Please just drop your name in the chat, and I'll start with the folks who are in the room, and then we'll get to the folks who are joining us online. Brooklyn, I think I'm gonna save you until we get to the green space conversation, if that's okay. Catherine.
I'll just stand up if that's all right.
Yeah.
So Catherine Griner, City Administrator, City of Condon, 128 South Main Street. I just want to thank the county court for funding our vision project, which we are having the survey. If anyone has not filled out a survey, please do fill out a survey. We're working on a vision project.
By Sunday.
By Sunday, yes, sooner the better. But if anyone needs the code to get into the survey, I have it here. I have a few extras, and then I'll make sure it is back on our website. The
Now,
county
is that
court,
just for city residents or?
no, it is for all of South Gilliam County.
Okay.
And we also have, Jed is part of the member of it, the port, and we've also had Judge Farrar Campbell and Commissioner Shannon also have participated in this process also. We're also having a community meeting, which will be here Monday, March 18th, 5 o'clock. You'll get some food, and we're gonna talk about trying to get our vision for 2050 of Condon and move from there. So, I just need to mention special projects paid for half of this project. It was a $40,000 project to do a visioning project. 5,000 was paid by the Ford Family Foundation, thanks to Kaylin. The other 5,000 is paid by the city, and the other 10,000 is paid by who's doing the study, which is Rural Development Initiatives. If anyone has any questions, please get a hold of us. And also too, we have city council tonight. Anyone is welcome to attend.
Wonderful. Okay, Denny.
By the action you have just taken, and by the way, I'm talking about whatever it is you did with probate, because I haven't had the opportunity to see it. And I would have expected, because the way this court normally acts, is a motion is made, there's a second, and there's discussion, and then there is a vote. But today it happened differently. So I get to speak post-vote. But by the action you seem to have taken, you will have avoided circuit court challenge by Frontier Justice. That's a good thing for the court, and that's a good thing for the county. Had it not been from Frontier Justice, this matter would have continued to fester beyond the unfortunate bounds we've all witnessed to date. Perhaps resolution of probate jurisdiction will afford some degree of healing to begin for the open wounds this court has inflicted. If the probate matter had gone to circuit court, I think we can be universal in agreement that the higher court would have found in Frontier Justice's favor, and in all likelihood, would have afforded Frontier Justice cost recovery. In notice to you dated February 7th, 2024, Frontier Justice Attorney Aaron Landau concluded by saying words to the effect that county citizens should not have to pay privately in suing the county court for illegal action. We stand by that. Frontier Justice maintains a payment in amount not to exceed $10,000 would represent not only words, but action should the court want to display interest in what I previously called healing. And because I probably won't have an opportunity to speak again, I want to say this to you all. Gilliam County Court broke the law. Gilliam County Court got caught. Gilliam County Court went to Salem for a fix. Gilliam County Court failed. I want to thank Gilliam County folks who, like me, spoke up on December 6th in opposition to the order, even though at the moment we didn't clearly know the full extent of the harm County Court was visiting upon us. I want to thank the people of Gilliam County who challenged the court on December 20th regarding the legality of transferring probate and the underlying statutes included in the order. Thank you for urging county court to seek legal clarification, which the court refused to do, relying instead upon, as it contends, legal advice from county counsel. I want to thank county residents for forming Frontier Justice and for financially supporting Frontier Justice in securing private legal representation. Thank you, Frontier Justice, for putting county court on notice February 7th, that the court's illegal action and subsequent refusal to seek clarification would be challenged in circuit court. I want to thank county residents who overwhelmingly opposed county court's failed attempt in Salem to get a legislative fix. Thanks also to current and former county officials and county officials from neighboring counties who joined in opposing the fix. The Oregon Department of Justice testified that current law allows Gilliam County Court to transfer probate to circuit court on a case-by-case basis, but not in totality. Thank you, Department of Justice, for your timely testimony. I want to thank Oregon Senate Judiciary Committee for killing Gilliam County Court's end-around move on February 19th. Gilliam County Court's reluctance to own up to its botched December 6th order until today's date, a full 3 months later, and the divisiveness in Foster over 90 days are in many ways irreparable. You should have rescinded the order long before now. However, there is no wrong time to do the right thing. So last and least, I want to thank you. Two more things I need to say, because I won't be recognized. But I have a suggestion regarding your consent agenda. I know it was not afforded, but I would like the opportunity to have a discussion regarding public information that has been removed from public record. Thank you.
All right, Steve.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much for, it happened so quickly. I assumed there was a rescinding of 2023-01. I would have liked a little bit more time spent with that and listening to your point of views and what your thoughts were and why suddenly you decided to make a reverse on this. Neither here nor there as far as that goes. I still want to thank you for taking the time to take a look at this, deal with this. Again, I echo what Denny said. I don't think this would have happened had it not been for a strong group of people in questioning the action at the time. I really believe that this has tore the county apart. I think your actions today didn't help that. And how quickly you reacted to all of this and not putting out any discussion whatsoever in your point of views of what caused you to get to this particular point. To the point of, I think, rescinding it and then putting out a new order.
Okay, Shannon?
I'm
Good? Good. All right, let's move into consent agenda. Oh, let me just make sure that there was no one online that wanted to. It's *6 to unmute yourself if you're on your phone, and lower left-hand side of your screen. I'll give you guys just a second. Lots of things going wrong, but it doesn't look like anybody's unmuting. Okay, so let's move into the consent agenda.
6.6, I'd either like to remove that because I need to kind of recuse from the discussion on that because my wife is a project manager on that project, or I can recuse myself from the whole consent agenda, but that's just the item.
Okay,
Can we put it on the meeting of the 20th?
would you rather have it be on that meeting?
Yeah.
Would you rather have it be on that meeting?
I
Or
will,
would you
I
like
will have a
us
lot more information
to- Okay,
by then.
okay,
Perfect.
okay, so we will go ahead and pull 6.6 out of the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Move it to, and we'll hold it over to the March 20th meeting. Okay, okay, do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda with the removal of 6.6.
I'll second it as
Good.
amended.
It is moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as amended, which consists of consider approval of March bills pending review, consider approval of December 20th, 2023 regular meeting minutes, consider approval of December 7th, 2024 regular meeting minutes, consider approval of February 21st, 2024 executive session minutes, and consider approval of amendment number 6 to Oregon Health Authority 2023 to 2025 intergovernmental agreement for the financing of public health services. Is there further discussion?
Yeah, there is a misspelling of caucus in, I think, the last minute. Just a miss-
In which one, in February?
Yeah, I think it's February. I have to check it again. It was in the announcements, I believe.
Okay. So it would be the February 7th, regular meeting minutes as amended.
I'm looking.
spell checked.
Yeah, it is the 7th. It is.
I have a question.
It is the 7th.
Oh, when you're referring to discussion, are you referring to us or just to you?
I'm referring to discussion amongst us.
So you're going to accept these minutes without any discussion?
Correct.
Even though they do not reflect what you said.
Okay, there's a motion on the table, or there's a motion on
There's
the
a
floor.
difference between an
I need you
RFP
to
and a
stop.
contract. There's a difference between an RFP and a contract.
Denny,
In your minutes, you
Denny.
say you're going to go back for a contract.
No,
In your meeting. you
Pat
say you're going
said
back-
RFP. Pat said RFP.
And the minutes that you're going to approve say contract.
That's what you meant, well.
okay, so we have a motion on the floor for the amended consent agenda, which includes an amendment to the February 7th minutes, regular meeting minutes, as well as pulling 6.6 out. So it's just those 5 items. All those in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on. Let's go into unfinished business. John, welcome to Gilliam County.
Glad to be here.
You want to come up and we're going to hear from you regarding South Gilliam County broadband deployment and kind of what Raleigh is working on in the south end, maybe possible partnerships in the north end. We'll kind of see, but I'll just hand it over to you to kind of you briefed me, but the commissioners have not had sort of a briefing on what Raleigh's up to.
Sure. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here, Judge and Commissioners. I appreciate this opportunity. Before the meeting, I gave Miranda just a couple of printouts of the slides that I do have that we can put on the screen if you'd like, so that everybody can see those. And then I have a little bit of information here that I'm happy to go over. And if you have questions, we can stop midstream, however you want to do that. I'll give a little bit of introduction of who we are as a company, the background of this project that's happening, and then information about the project. And that's kind of the general outline here. My name is Jonathan Cannon, and I'm happy to be here representing Rally Networks. Rally Networks is we're internet service providers. We are located in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Our headquarters is in Baker City here in Oregon. I work from home, but that is the office that I primarily operate out of. And we started 100 years ago as an Oregon Telephone Corporation and as a handful of phone companies here in Oregon. And so my role is to handle government affairs. And so I interface with all of our government entities, whether that be local municipalities, counties like yourself, state governments, or even the federal government. And a little bit about, so if people, sometimes they see me and they'll have questions about specific operations in their town. I am aware of a number of things. I knew we had an outage here because of some upgrades last night, but oftentimes I'm not the one to ask if you have questions about specific service. So I'll go ahead and throw that out there. So if I give you a dumb look on my face, it's because I really don't know. But I handle the government affairs and I interface with our government entities. And my background is actually in land planning, land development. I have a degree in landscape architecture, and that's where I worked in the private sector for a number of years. Then I became a city zoning administrator and a city manager for a number of years, and now I'm back in the private sector handling the government affairs. And so my contact information is on the screen. If anybody has questions that they want to send my way, I can always route them to who needs to answer them in the company. But certainly if you as a judge and commissioners or any of your staff have questions, that is primarily what I'm here to do. The FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, has a number of funding models for broadband internet for areas that are referred to as high cost areas. And so Gilliam County is a high cost area just because your population is a little over 2,000 people across the entire county. It's very expensive to bring internet service to this area. And so for that reason, the FCC looks at this as a high cost area. And so they fund areas like this with universal service money that comes primarily from people's, when we have the old telephone lines, the copper lines, which many of our customers here still have, there's a charge on there that says USF. That money is then used and given to ISPs to fund areas that don't make a business case for us. For example, we are in process of building out the Tye Valley. We have a project that's funded actually on that one. It's funded by the USDA. It's a $38 million project. And so you can imagine, the subscription rates would never pay for that. If you average $100 a month and there's 1,600 customers, that'll never pay off a $38 million build, much less the continued operations. And so the federal government funds that. One of those funding models that they have is called Alternative Connect America Cost Model, ACAM for short. And last year, or in 2022, they released something called Enhanced ACAM as the next iteration of that. And the Enhanced ACAM was put out by the FCC in 2022 in the rulemaking process. And then in 2023, they approached all providers that are participants in the ACAM model, which we are here in Oregon, and said, look, here's Enhanced ACAM, take it or leave it. You have to take it by the whole state, or you have to leave it by the whole state and find another funding model. And so in the state of Oregon, we said, yes, we're going to accept Enhanced ACAM. Well, what that meant, if we can go to the next slide here. What that meant is that these are some of the areas in blue that you can see with Condon and Gilliam County being right there at the top. Some of the areas, these are some of the areas we took enhanced ACAM in the state. We have a couple of areas outside of this, but these are the closest ones to here. So what that means though is that we will receive federal funding in order to build out broadband internet into these areas. So everything you see in the blue with the blue boundaries is an enhanced ACAM. You can see over near Mount Hood, the black boundary, that's the Ty Valley build. That's the one that I mentioned. That's a $38 million build, to give you an idea. So, you know, Gilliam County, if we were to have done the whole county, you're well over $60–70 million to build internet into the county. So you can imagine, you know, you can begin to see why this is considered such a high cost area. And then Goldendale is up there. That's a Washington build. We can go to the next slide here. So why do I show you this information? Well, as you know, the city of Condon and yourselves have worked very hard to bring internet into this area. And you know the monumental undertaking that is to bring that sort of high-speed fiber broadband internet into here. And so with this funding from EACAM, this is a significant investment from the federal government. It ends up being a significant investment for Rally Networks to bring fiber internet into this build. And so on this, you can see the blue boundary, which on the west and on the south mainly parallels the county boundary and then splits the county in half, top to bottom. That is the boundary that we will be building high-speed fiber broadband internet to in the county. And when I say high-speed fiber, I mean fiber to the home, to the premise. There's not any plans for any sort of alternative technology, any wireless technology at this point in this build. The EACAM requires us to build fiber to the home in this boundary. And so clear in Mayville, Lone Rock, wherever, there will be fiber in the ground to those areas. And our preference is always fiber in the ground. We do sometimes connect onto poles when absolutely necessary, but our preference is always fiber in the ground for a number of reasons. One is it's better protected from weather. Two, it's more fire resilient. You know, we don't have quite as much risk from the fire season. And then it just gives us easy access to our handholds and such when we can pull up and don't have to bring a bucket truck or any other equipment out. So so we're really pleased to be coming. Yes.
Well, how did the boundary, like on the north boundary, get decided? And
So-
does Michael in that or out of it?
So our boundary is determined when we work with the federal government. We have what we call ILEC and CLECs, and basically it's an incumbent local exchange carrier and competitor local exchange carrier, and those boundaries are determined at the federal level by what we have said we are the incumbent in, and for years that they have funded those areas as the incumbent. And so that boundary is determined by the old telephone boundaries and the FCC.
So is
level.
Michael north of it or in it?
Is what north of it or in it?
Michael
Appears to
Michael.
be north of it.
will be north of it?
Yeah, because Olix is, it's
Well, I
Olix
see
out of it.
Olix
Michael
is up
just,
there, but-
what, 2 miles.
If we-
Michael's gonna be somewhere.
It's
between-
right in between Clem and Michael.
Yeah.
That's where the line is.
What
If
is the cost, I guess, can I add that? What is the cost of the homeowners to have it? Like a lot of us that live on those county roads have half to a mile driveways from the county road. Is that our expense to bring fiber from the county road down our driveways into our homes?
let's jump to the next slide, and then I'll do my best to answer that question for you. Okay.
Those outside of that region.
Yeah. So the cost. So this gives us a little closer picture on the boundary. And I can't tell you exactly, because I'm not familiar with that area in the county, where that
It's just.
line is.
Because it's not very far from Clem to Michelob, but I don't know where.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
Now, when we build fiber out, obviously we go out all the main roads, where we have what are called broadband serviceable locations, and those, and for short, BSLs, and those BSLs are defined, on a federal map. And over the last few years, the federal government put together a map of the entire country, and they put little dots everywhere in the country that they have what is called a broadband serviceable location. Now, there have been a lot of efforts to improve that map, because when it first came out, they used a contractor and artificial intelligence, and so it labeled a lot of haystacks and rocks and barns and all sorts of things as broadband serviceable locations. And so for the last couple of years, the federal government, with the help of the states and with the help of internet service providers, have been refining that map. It's still not perfect, but it's pretty good. And so it shows, in this boundary, it shows every BSL. And so we have to, our requirement as part of the AACAM is to build fiber to a point to where we have what's called the 10-day hookup. So if you were to call, once it's in the ground, if you were to call as a customer and say, hey, I want fiber at my home, my residence, then we have to be able to hook up to that within 10 days. And that's where our line is. Now, recognizing that we have some long driveways, we have some folks that may want fiber at their barns or even at outbuildings and such, the cost for the connection is kind of on a case basis. If it's pretty close to the road, we have a standard hookup fee that people pay, and we hook them up. If there are extraordinary circumstances, such as maybe a half mile or a mile or a 2-mile driveway, or additional outbuildings and things, then we can provide that customer a quote on what it would cost to hook them up. And so really, our customer service reps and our folks and the folks that primarily handle that part are in our Missouri office, and then they coordinate back with the folks that would be here local in Condon, our technicians, to go out and look at the site and look at how far it is and what the cost of that connection would be. So I say it varies, but yes, there is, on those unusual sites, there is a cost that the customer might have to pay. So does that answer your question? Okay, wonderful.
So is that if you're asking for it outside of your actual home?
Well, I would say it could be on your home, recognizing that some folks might have a half mile or a mile driveway, as opposed to like here in town where it's 100 feet, 50 feet or so. So that can vary depending on that. So, we are Rally Networks, as many of you already know. We're here already. We run the local exchange for the phone company. We have some fiber here in the county already. That began actually when we purchased the home telephone company, which I'm sure many of you are very familiar with. That's decades old. We purchased that in 2014 and have slowly been doing upgrades. We did an upgrade last night, as we mentioned, to some of the switches and equipment. And so we've been here, we're dedicated to being here, and because as a company, Rally Networks, our focus is the rural of the rural areas. We have areas in Halfway, Oregon, obviously here, the Tide Valley. Our focus is not your big cities, it is the rural areas. And so we're here, and the AACAM build, one of the stipulations that we accept with that is it's a 15-year funding model before they offer us the next iteration of AACAM. And so this build commits us to a 15-year model just for this build. And so we're here and we're committed to being here is the point of that. Now, with that said, you know, we can talk a little bit more about this particular build. So the fiber in the ground, we've started our permitting process with the FCC to give us the authorization to go ahead and to proceed to build. We anticipate that here in 2024, we will begin construction here in the county. We have to be done by 2028 with the build unless some extenuating circumstance happens and the FCC grants us an extension. But I would anticipate between 2024 and 2028, there will be fiber in the ground to all of our BSLs within this boundary here. Now, we do not have to complete the build in order to start hooking people up. So as we build out a line and certain equipment goes in place, obviously we can start hooking people up, and we'll have individuals that will be able to assist with that as people have interest in being hooked up into the county. Yes.
So if you're a half a mile from the fiber.
Mhm.
And you're a homeowner, you're gonna have to pay to get it to your house, or you have an option to look at whatever's the cheapest way to get it there, which could be wireless from that point, and how would that hook up from you to them? You understand my question?
Yes. Well, and I think the best way to answer that is with it depends. The best thing to do would be if you have a half a mile driveway or whatever, but maybe it's a direct shot as the crow flies, you know, is maybe a quarter mile. Certainly, when someone's ready to hook up, they can call our customer service representative and then work with our local guys here to really have those discussions and coordinate what's the most cost-effective method to hook up. You know, we're interested in that. If, you know, we don't mind going cross-country with lines. We don't mind looking at, you know, some sort of wireless shoot to the house. But we want to make sure it works and it works well and that it's safe and doable to install. And so, yes, the short answer is yes. I think we're open to look at less expensive ways to get to the house, but you know, the customer service reps and then the local technicians would work together to help with that.
So when you say a 10-day hookup, obviously you're not gonna get fiber to the house in 10 days. How do you?
On some of those super long lines, depending on the construction season and winter and such, you know, we might have to lay it on the ground for a while until snow clears or ground thaws in order to get it hooked up. But that's kind of the standard they've set. We can't run out, and then what we can't do by that is get to an intersection and there's a road and go, well, we'll run it when one of those customers wants fiber up in there. We'll run out this 10-mile road at that point. No, we've got to go ahead and run up that road so that we're staged. So if those customers were to call, we can then come onto their properties. That's what I mean by the 10-day. So, and generally most folks, you know, we can get in there and get it done within 10 days, but there might be some unusual properties where we have to have some flexibility on that.
Do you have a map of, or that you're sharing of the BSLs or whatever you're calling it? Is that in your system?
I do not have a map of the BSLs in this presentation. However, the FCC, one way to look it up is if you just do a Google search for FCC broadband map, that should bring up the link to the FCC map. And then you can actually click on the state and you can drill down in. It starts off with these hexagons. And then as you drill in closer and closer, eventually it'll bring up these little dots and they'll be color coded. And you can click on the dot, or you can do a search by address and you can click on that dot and it will tell you all providers that are there and the different options that are out there. And then Oregon also has a broadband map and you can do the same sort of search, Oregon broadband map, and do a similar drill down into that. So,
Have an idea how many DSLs are in South Gilliam County?
you know, I should have looked at that number before I came, but I do not.
I'll look it up, but I'm just curious.
Off the top of my head, I would guess there's about 862.
Okay.
Because if we look at, there's approximately a population of 2005, I think was the last census data. And you start looking at about 40% of that is typical for the number of households. So we're probably in that range, 860, 870, but I don't have that exact number.
Thank you.
So,
Catherine, did you have a question?
Can I have, so on to Brooks' point, I do live in rural South Gilliam County. Most of our driveways are, a mile and a half or, I mean, a half mile, not a mile.
Ours are 2 miles long.
So if we already have a phone line from home telephone or something, we may not be using it this time.
Mhm.
Is that gonna have some sort of weigh in on how far you take your fiber in the ground to the homes?
So, that's a great question. And I'm gonna say that in the discussions we've had on the back end, generally, if somebody already has our service, then my stock response is that if you have our service, then we just transition you over to the fiber and there's not some additional hookup charge. However, I will add a slight caveat onto that just to cover myself. You know, there's always the possibility of some crazy extenuating circumstance where we have to say, okay, look, this is a $20,000 just to get from the road to the house. You know, we need to share some costs here or something. But generally speaking, the discussions have been, if you already have our service, it's just a straight, we switch you over, you're hooked up with the new fiber once we get there, and we move on, without any additional cost. So.
And you should get your home telephone service back.
Just so happens some of your poles go across our property. Maybe we can.
So there might be some opportunity for both of us there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the general thing, but you know, there's always, I just want to be careful that I don't back ourselves into a corner that. You
I
know,
guess what I'm just trying to say is, when you're talking about getting fiber to the home,
Mhm.
it sounds like you're getting fiber to the road.
We get,
And if it's just to our county road, I know at least a lot of us I'm in Brooks neighborhood.
Mhm.
And so we're a long ways from the county road, considerable ways from the county road. So I have some concerns that when you are selling it as fiber to the home, it's not actually fiber to the home.
maybe I should say fiber to the premise. Our goal is to get fiber to the property boundary. So if you're in a neighborhood
Yeah.
that has private roads, then we'll need to run it up those private roads, assuming the neighborhood will allow us to do that. And so if you're counting a long driveway as part of the neighborhood's driveways, I look at it as your property line. So, because we obviously can't come onto somebody's property without permission, so. But if you have internet or have service with us already, generally speaking, it'll be just a transition over to the new service, the new rate structure, and go from there. So, okay, with the new service, from the EACAM bill, we are required to also meet, and with fiber, this is easy. The FCC has set new standards that say that we have to at least be able to offer 100 megabytes down and 20 megabytes up. And what we have done as a company is in anticipating the newer standards that they're looking at for next year, our minimum service is anticipated to be 100 megabytes down, 100 megabytes up. Symmetrical service is what we call it. And then we'll offer services up to 2 gigabytes down, 2 gigabytes up for residential customers. The price range will vary from anywhere from 79 up to about 160 for that 2 gigabytes down and up. You know, I'm not going to try to tell people what type of service they need. There's a lot of it depends on that. Certainly speed becomes a bigger deal if you're gaming, if you're streaming videos, if you have multiple devices. And nowadays, you know, between cell phones and home computers and laptops and refrigerators and cars and everything else that connects up to the internet, that level of service really becomes a case-by-case basis for the customers. And our CSRs are really good at having those discussions and saying, what do you want to do? And then helping you find the service that we think will satisfy you, because we want happy customers with that.
Can
So-
I ask a question about that? I live in town, and so I currently have a fiber with you guys, and it's at 50 megabytes, which it changed a few years ago from 15 to 50, whether we wanted to or not. And so now, are we gonna go up to 100 megabytes, and is our cost going to go up?
So what I'll say to that is, those discussions are happening within the company as far as, we've purchased a number of telephone companies over the last few years, and we have a lot of different, I'll call them legacy services, where we have a lot of different programs, and we're trying to standardize our offerings. So I will say any new offerings will come in at there'll be a tier of services, 3 or 4 that start at that 100, going up to that 2 gig. As far as what we're going to do and how we, over the time, will phase out all of those other offerings, I don't have a good answer for you on that right now, but I know we're trying to simplify that. And part of that simplification, the reason for it is, for a long time, it's been really easy to just continue offering whatever service people had and keep that for decades. Recently, the FCC implemented something that they call broadband labels. And so imagine your food labels on the back of a can of beans or, different foods we buy. Well, now the FCC is saying that we have to produce broadband labels for those exact same sort of things. And as we look at all of our companies, that ended up being something like 2,000 labels that we have to create, provide to the customer, read to the customer over the phone if requested. And so that's created a really onerous challenge for us. And so we're trying to streamline some of that so that we can simplify that.
Okay, and the reason I asked is because I not only have my personal service, but I'm the executive secretary for the fire district.
Okay.
Building you're sitting in, and it affects their bill as well as my own.
Certainly. Now, our business and our governmental and our institutional ones, when I talk about those services, those are our standard residential services. Business and governmental institutional, we treat a little differently. And so that would be one for the fire department. I would say, look, I'd encourage you to call our customer service rep. If you need to talk with Ken Gross, I think there are some in the room that have met him here and have those discussions with him. He can better answer those questions.
Okay, because probably we use less internet here than I do at my house.
Certainly.
Because tech, really and truly, most generally, there's only people here 2 days a week.
Certainly. Might be a lot of devices on it, but only 2 people using it at any one time.
Probably 2 devices on it.
Oh, okay. So
compared to.
you're right, because at home, I mean, in my house, I got 3 kids and I've lost count of the number of devices. So I get you. I understand that. So. So that simplification of the offerings, though, we are trying to do for a couple of reasons. One, it does simplify things for us, but a big part of it is with the new FCC requirements. The reporting is just incredible for us. Let's see. With that, I'll just bring up a couple of things for people to think about. I mentioned all of these different, we call them dummy devices, like a refrigerator. Some people's refrigerators have TVs in them and they stream through them. Gaming devices, hot water heaters, stoves. These are sources of cyber hacking now, where people come in through these devices and then hack into their systems. So we do offer some cybersecurity options that allow us to manage the Wi-Fi in the home and then put all of those devices behind a protected firewall to help protect security. So cybersecurity is becoming a bigger deal. So we do offer services on top of just the access to help protect our customers with that. And then we will continue to offer VoIP services. So if somebody wants that phone line, so to speak, then you can do voice over IP and we'll offer those services as well moving forward. Because I know in a lot of areas, cell phones do not necessarily work. And so those VoIP services are a great option for that. And then obviously businesses, industry, you know, we're happy to work with them. You know, if you are pursuing economic development, you know, do not hesitate to give us a call, because you can tout that, hey, well, you have fiber internet here, and if a big factory or somebody wants to come in and you're trying to get them in here, you know, we're willing to scale up or whatever they need to service them in greater bandwidth. Now, on this map, I'll point out, I included our boundary, that's the build out boundary, the county boundary, but I also included the school district boundaries. And the next program that's happening from the federal government is BEAD. Well, one of the next programs is BEAD. And for those that may not be familiar with BEAD, in the infrastructure bill passed a couple of years ago at the federal level, there was approximately $60 billion that was put out for fiber broadband, high-speed broadband internet, with the idea that each state would receive a pot of money, and they were to build broadband fiber to every broadband serviceable location within the state. That's a fairly monumental task for the state to do, and they've been working on that. And so with BEAD, the state of Oregon has chosen school district boundaries as their BEAD bid areas. So in other words, if you want some of that BEAD money in Oregon, then you have to apply based on the school district boundary, all of the unserved or underserved locations within that boundary. And so you can see we're building out most of the school district boundary here in the south part. The north part has a different school district boundary. And so at this time, we're not going to be pursuing any of the BEAD money to build out the rest. So I would anticipate whoever, you know, and I'm just surmising here, so can't hold me to this at all, but I would anticipate whoever goes after the northern part of the county for BEAD money could easily incorporate the unserved areas at the northern part of the southern district's boundary into their bid, and then build out the rest of the county. But at this time, we're not planning on going after the BEAD money. So, and there's a number of reasons for that, but we're not planning on doing that. So
that's really part of what we've been pursuing.
Correct. So yeah, the BTAP application that we submitted a couple of months ago now is to come up with a plan for everything outside of the blue area.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And those, let's see, I think those are not far from being awarded. It's closed. The RFP on that is closed, and I think they'll award those here before long. So, and that money was really designed to help with that sort of thing. But you know, I want to be clear, you know, we're not planning on that. And really the reason we hadn't planned on doing that is we've got a lot of projects in the hopper. And a couple of the challenges that we would face with the BEAD is they are requiring a 25% match and a fairly significant irrevocable letter of credit. And we have received USDA money, EACAM money, and have a lot of projects in the hopper. And the 25% match on this one did not make sense for us from a business standpoint to be able to pick up those final locations and make a business case for that match. If we found another source for that match money, then, you know, we'd be happy to go and pick up the rest of it, or even pick up the northern part of the county. We are looking at that in a couple of other areas, but in this, it just didn't work for us without some other funding source for that 25% match. So, and then let's see if we can jump to the next slide. You know, once again, here's my contact information. The QR code is just my contact information.
I saw
And,
that.
and so, and then I really appreciate you letting me come and speak today and share some information about what we're doing. Feel free to take this information down and use it. And then if we can jump to the next screen, the QR code's on the next screen as well. Being that my role is with government affairs and working back and forth with our local governments, that top left QR code is just a sign up form with just an email request on it. What I try to do is send out updates on the status of our EACAM projects to anybody that wants to have that. And certainly for you as government officials and for your staff, you know, that might be very handy. I don't care if the public signs up for that as well. I don't send out lots of them. It'd be something like, hey, we're moving into the permitting phase, or, you know, we're looking at a year because of, you know, this federal permit or whatever. So that you have some idea when people are coming and saying, hey, that guy spoke and it's been 6 months and we haven't seen anything. You can say, oh, well, we got an email 3 months ago. They're still waiting on the BLM, or they're waiting on the Forest Service or the FCC. So it's just so that you have some sort of a update on ahead of you. If you have any interest in other projects we're working on, obviously the bottom right QR code, we have a page that just shows all of our projects that are happening now. So I know lots of people have second homes or places elsewhere, or places they like to visit. And so that's an opportunity there. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Yeah,
I've asked mine.
I
Okay.
would like to know affordability. So, because I know a lot of people have went to, you know, Starlink, and they're finding that it's getting increasingly more expensive.
Mhm.
Is when they get all the fiber in the South County, is it gonna be cost effective for the customers, or are we looking at a huge increase, or?
Well, for
I
those,
think affordability is what you're after to begin with.
and that's a big concern everywhere. Our price range is looking, it looks like it'll be in that $79 to $160 range for that 100 minimum speed to that 2 GB upper speed. You know, nationally, I'll let people decide if they think that's affordable or not. Nationally, when we look at the reports out of the FCC, we're certainly not the most expensive. We're pretty middle of the road to lower end of the road on those reports. As far as the cost of our services, we try to be competitive with some of our more urban markets that we see. And so I know I pay $90 a month for my internet at home, because where I live, we don't offer our service, so I don't get it as a company thing. But so I know we're very competitive, at least with what I'm paying at home as well. Currently, there is a program called the Affordable Connectivity Program. Unfortunately, it has not been funded by Congress. And so although the program's not going away, there is no funding for it. And so the money goes away here at the end of April, unless Congress refunds or fills up the coffers of that program. But that program, if it is refunded, for those that qualify, it's $30 a month towards your internet. And then they also have what's called the Lifeline program, which provides a phone or internet, and provides funding for that. And so the Lifeline is not going away, but the ACP program is not funded right now. So if that comes back, you know, certainly there might be an opportunity for folks to see a $30 reduction in their bill. So. Any other?
I mean, I wouldn't mind paying more money if it's good service. I mean, that it's like, I have extended DSL, so.
It'll be very
So
different
that-
than DSL.
Yeah, because
So.
when weather it makes it terrible.
Yeah.
So.
The old copper lines are prone to that, especially as they age out. I think you'll find that the fiber is far more reliable and, really the only downtime that you would see on the fiber is when we're doing a switch upgrade or whatever it might be at our office. Or sometimes, you know, customers, in order to save some money, will do their own routers at home. And oftentimes the internet's at the door, so to speak, but the router is down at home. And so, you know, that managed Wi-Fi helps with that as well. But
Or
the fiber is way more reliable than copper.
or a backhoe in the wrong place. I saw that in Arlington this week.
Yes, a backhoe in the, one of the cities I managed, was in North Carolina, and we had a main line that connected one end of the state to the other end of the state. And a backhoe hit it during construction, not one of ours, thank goodness. And they charged them $200,000 an hour that line was cut, the contractor. So call before you dig, 811. You know, it's fiber splicing is really expensive. So you bring up a good point, and I appreciate that. So unlike the copper lines where you just go back and screw them together, it's yeah. So any other questions?
Any other questions? No. I will say, I think a lot of homeowners received, I think Columbia Basin has been reaching out about the rights of way and things like that, sort of prepping people that you guys are gonna be out and doing some work. So hopefully for folks, if you got that letter from Columbia Basin, this is what we're talking about, is this preparation for this larger project.
Yeah. And that right of way acquisition is a big task and undertaking. So, but not near as big as dealing with the federal government.
Yeah,
I'll just say that.
I bet.
So, okay.
Thank you so much for
Thank
making
you.
the trip. It's great to see you in person.
I'm glad to do it. Thank you.
All right. Okay, commissioners, let's dive in. Next one, is discussion and possible action regarding county administrator recruitment. So as you guys know, the hiring committee is tentatively scheduled to meet again in executive session on, March 18th. To interview a couple more candidates, that were in before the February 15th, initial deadline. You're already aware that we approved hiring procedures. One of the reason I put this on here is, the hiring committee did an initial round of interviews with candidates. Part of that discussion after those, interviews concluded, there was a recommendation from the hiring committee that the county court, consider, looking at doing or partnering with a recruitment firm to sort of cast a wider net, and also in recognition that we are operating with short staff. And so Miranda's wearing a lot of hats these days, and managing recruitment externally might help ease some of that workload internally. In addition, when I spoke with firms, I also talked to them about the prospect of contracting for a interim county administrator. Prothman in particular, their background is local government recruitment. And so when I spoke with their person, their contact, they had talked about how they have basically a list of retired county and city administrators who still want to be involved but not on a permanent basis, like to come out for maybe a couple of months to bridge gaps for communities that need some additional administrative support. So as you'll see in here, I reached out to 3 firms, Prothman, which I just talked about, IT Motives, which I think is kind of newer on the scene and trying to get into local government. I think they do some recruitment now for City of Portland, maybe. And then Emerald Staffing, who also sort of came up in search results as having a long tenure at recruitment. So purpose today is just to talk about if you guys are interested in moving forward on an interim solution, kind of where we are in that process, or just kind of starting the discussion on this.
When I went through the pack and it looked like expense wise, Protham was better choice. I read that right, quite a bit. Based on the base price. And the fact that we've got interviews on the 18th and county court on the 20th, I would like to move this to the 20th.
Okay.
See where we are after the two final interviews.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. We will add it to there. And, did you have any questions or things that you want me to go back to the two that submitted proposals to clarify?
They're pretty detailed proposals.
Yeah,
I'll
I mean, this
probably-
is all they
Give me a
did, so-
chance to look into them in a little more depth, but I think that before we spend a bunch of money on this, we ought to see where we're at with the final two
okay,
applicants.
okay. I'll make a note and we'll put that back on the 20th. All right, let's move on. Next one. We are in 7.3, which is consider award a fiscal year 2022 or 2023-2024 cycle 5 capital investment grants. Rachel's on here as well, but I'll take this first, and then if you guys have questions, maybe Rachel can chime in as we go. So, the competitive grant review committee met on February 15th to review the latest batch of grant applications that have come in for the capital investment grant. This is cycle 5. Just as a reminder, we receive those on a rolling basis these days. We received 3 applications. The first was from Pioneer Community Development Corporation, requesting just over $500,000 to construct 2 duplexes on purchase lots here in Condon. Am I correct, Rob, that those are the ones that we're talking about for the 911 partnership? So the 911 board is working with PCDC on a partnership where these duplexes would be dedicated for new hires that are coming in, new dispatchers, because we're still in a pretty big crunch for trying to get those in. And as well, right now, because we are short dispatchers, we're using contracted dispatchers on a regular basis to just keep the seats full and give our regular staff some breaks so they don't burn out. And they need places to land while they're in town. So that's kind of the backstory of that. And so PCDC, that's what the application is for, and sort of who the other partner is kind of behind the scenes would be the Frontier 911. The second one comes from the Port of Arlington, requesting $1.15 million to develop the 38.65 acre property for workforce housing in Arlington. Do you have a project name for that? What are we calling that?
Alkali Ridge.
Alkali Ridge. So we've had, as you guys know, lots of discussions with the port about that project previously. And so this is the initial request to do some of the infrastructure work and things like that that needs to take place before we can start building homes up there. Third request comes in from the Honker's Nest. They've requested $175,000 to remodel their building and purchase playground equipment, furniture, and toys. So this is the recommendation from the competitive grant review committee. They recommended fully funding PCDC's request, funding the Port of Arlington's request up to the amount of funds that are still uncommitted in the account, which is just shy. It's 1.12 million that's left. And then not funding the Honker's Nest request at this time. I met with Kelsey at the Honker's Nest to talk about their project. And after that conversation, was sort of narrowing down the request. So basically, history of this is that the Honker's Nest came to us, I think in spring of last year, requesting some funds to do some building upgrades that they needed to do to stay in compliance with state licensure, health and safety requirements. And so the county had granted, an initial, I believe an initial $30,000 towards that. As often happens when you get into construction and start tearing apart buildings, they realized that there was a deeper problem in the kitchen area and the bathroom areas where leaking water and mold and, some things that needed much more extensive, mitigation. And so the final project cost for that was, just over $61,000. So, basically what I think the request is today is rather than that large 175, would be an additional 25,000. That's in addition, the 30,000 that we've already committed and that we're sort of releasing with invoices, to help them cover that cost so that they can stay up and operating. Where this is a little bit tricky is that, we have, if the court approves the first two projects, we will have fully committed the fund for this budget cycle. And so the recommendation or something that the court would consider doing is we have we also have an operational support grant for the Hunker's Nest that was approved during the last, when we were writing the budget, this time last year. That has not been fully expended. And so we could redirect a portion of those funds that have already been committed into this new use, so that they have those costs covered, basically. And I think I'll stop there and ask if you have questions. I should say actually that I've also, in addition to the letter that I noted today, in support, I've also received personally several letters from parents who have children obviously in the center, very concerned about ensuring that the center stays open and viable. So I just wanted to note that for the record that I, probably have 4 or 5 parents, maybe a little bit more, maybe even 6 that have reached out to me personally and shared their family's experience with the Hunker's Nest and asked for the court to support funding. So with that, I will open it up and ask if you guys have questions.
Yeah, their application was troubling to me. I'm trying to sort through, the 25% match wasn't there and the whole thing was kind of down to it. I think there was $1 or something for a toilet wax ring in it. So we need to do what we can to keep it open and going, but boy, putting a bunch of money like that into that old building, I don't know how old that thing is, but there might be a better way to go about that.
Yeah, I will say on this particular one, the contractor has already done the work because they started with this smaller project and then it of course expanded once they got things opened up and realized there was mold and other issues that they needed to deal with. And so in terms of the actual accountability for the funding and all of that, like Kelsey has submitted the actual receipts from the contractor, and we have those, but the initial motion from the court capped it at 30,000, and so I'm not able to obviously go beyond that
I'm good
for the project, so.
Yeah, I support the extra 25.
Okay, did you guys want to talk about the other 2 projects? Did you have any questions?
Well, they are
They're
right in line. We've been working on them and finally getting them to go somewhere. I don't want to see them stop now. Finally getting there.
Okay, so if you guys are supportive of those 2 recommendations, there's 2 suggested motion language. One is.
Oh, I did have a question.
Go ahead, Leah.
So the toys and playground equipment, could they go back for a special projects grant for that?
Yes.
Funding?
So
instead of what they're trying to get it from?
Yeah, and the other thing is because we're heading into budget season, we're about to reopen and we'll refresh that capital projects fund with the new. And so, in another month or so, those applications will open again. folks.
If I remember right,
folks can recommend it.
didn't we grant early learning for some outside playground equipment that was quite a lot less than?
We did, yeah, they came in for a special projects grant, maybe 2 cycles ago.
What, I mean, I don't remember exactly what was in that project, but what's the difference between it seemed like it was 15,000 versus 60 some?
Yeah,
For playground equipment?
yeah, and that's something we can talk to Kelsey about. The other thing is, when we get the Gilliam County program up and running, the hope is that with that program and providing technical assistance to both of the early learning centers, that they will, have some additional resources to go after some outside grants as well. And so the counties will reopen, and then hopefully there'll be some technical assistance to help them access other grant opportunities, that are happening. So,
Okay.
Kelsey just asked a question.
yeah, Kelsey asked, what about the rest of the money? Are you talking about the rest of the operational support funds, Kelsey?
Yes, I am. I have done everything that you guys have asked for the operational grant. And how can I hire more people if I don't have the money? You guys only gave 25% of it, and now you're moving it to another, now you're moving another grant that we submitted into this grant. I found more information from the stuff that you guys released. I submitted this grant in November, and it got slipped through the cracks somehow. And I did everything that I was told to do, and now I'm asking questions publicly because I threw all away the toys. I threw away most of the furniture because I was promised this money. So now I'm sitting here with nothing because you guys promised this money, and then these new grants that came in February after I'd already submitted in November is being accepted, but mine's being slipped through the cracks. But you look at Condon's daycare, and that daycare is very nice. And I started this to make this better because you guys wanted me to make this place better. So am I going to get the rest of the operational grant? I mean, you're right. I have to make another grant here in the next month, but I haven't even received the rest of this grant. It just sounds like you guys are trying to run the place, which if you are trying to run the place, awesome. Make us employees of your guys's, under your guys's, because, and make your guys's budgets and stuff, because that's where we're at right now. I mean, I've literally done everything and more to get this grant, and you guys have not let go any of the funds.
You've been involved with those conversations, so I have not, so I don't know any details on where we're at with those, so.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of when we released the first amount of money, but I want to say it was probably like August timeframe. The court did ask at that time that for every section that we release, that we come back and basically check in on if the stipulations that the budget committee and the grant review committee put in place had been sort of worked upon. So I do think that there has been progress made on those. One of them, for instance, was asking them to update the way that they were doing their financial accounting systems, the method that they were using, and sort of switching over into something that worked a little bit easier for them. They have done that. I think one of the concerns that as they were looking at this request, the grant review committee flagged for us, as there was a concern that there was at that point, they were running with a very slim number of board members, not enough for a quorum. And that was a concern because the board is expected to help provide some of the financial controls within that organization. Kelsey and I spoke about that now a couple of weeks ago, and she has since.
Can I interrupt you for a second? The board members just literally quit like a month ago, and we had a full board. So I don't know where you're coming up with that. And now we have a full board again. So I'm just saying, literally just 1 month of not having, I only have 2, and legally I only have to have 3. And I've looked into it. Technically, I don't even have to have a board, but I mean, I want a board just for like safety and all that stuff, but board members covered.
Yeah, so that was what I was about to say, was that, the board has been reconstituted. So the other recommendation that the court had is, that the competitive grant review committee had for the court was that they felt if we were going to release additional operational support dollars, that there needed to perhaps be an outside bookkeeper who was managing that piece of it. And so I spoke with Kelsey about that as well, just to ensure that those books are being updated and are reflective of where the Honker's Nest is financially. So, if the court wants to release another portion of those operational support grants, you can let me know that. But I also need motions on the other two things that we just talked about. So I don't know where you want to start.
I'm getting confused in regards to this is a capital investment. It's not an operational.
Correct. Right, so what we're talking about, at least for this, for the capital investment request, is diverting a portion. Because originally, I think the operational support grant was funded at 200,000. And as Kelsey noted, a quarter of that has gone out, so 50,000 of that has already gone out, so there's 150 left.
So we originally approved 200,000.
Correct.
And we have funded how much?
50.
50, okay.
So there's 150 left, so the idea would be that 25 of that, there would be a motion from the court allowing that to be, basically what's gonna happen is the grant agreements that we signed for the capital project and for the operational support will both be modified to shift the funds. So the operational support will come down by 25,000. The capital investment will go up by 25,000. And that will allow them then to use those funds, use the capital investment funds to make sure that their contractors and everybody get paid.
Cleaned up.
Then the remaining amount, the court can decide if they want to release that amount and how much they want to release of the operational support. So you would just need to give me direction on that piece because, like I said, about 9 months ago, the direction from the court was that you guys wanted those release of funds to come back every time. So,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not in the loop of what's going on to make that recommendation. You're gonna have to make it. You've been working on daycare with Rocket and all of that.
Yep.
And I haven't been participating in any of that, so I don't wanna make a recommendation without any background.
right.
So are they normally releasing it quarterly? Is that how?
It is depended on the reason, normally with our operational support, we don't hold back funds. The reason, and we held back funds for Condon as well. The reason was because there were stipulations attached. And the grant review committee and the budget committee, because they review those and approve those too, wanted to see progress, particularly on the financial controls, which if you think about it, makes sense. Want to make sure that there's good financial controls for anybody that we're granting money to. They wanted to see those in place prior to releasing the entire amount of money. So that there was an incentive for both entities Condon had different stipulations. It wasn't a financial thing. But there were specific stipulations and there were stipulations in those grant agreements saying that they needed to make progress on, in particular, financial controls. So, that's sort of the history of it.
So what kind of progress have they made on the finance part of it?
So they have converted to QuickBooks, which was one of the stipulations that they adopted an accounting software that, is sort of standard. They have done that. I'm trying to think of what else. I believe that one of the stipulations was, Yeah, it was on the fiscal year. Originally, they were operating on a calendar year.
Okay.
They moved to a fiscal year so they can align with, and their finances are aligning with their funding streams that are coming in and out since they're heavily funded by the county. Those were two of them. In the latest sort of request, it was reconstituting the board to make sure there was sufficient oversight on the board, because they're a small entity, having that separation of duties, was important. And so, as Kelsey just noted, that has been fixed, as well. The last piece is really just, the bookkeeper. That's a new stipulation that just came with this set of recommendations. So Kelsey and I talked about that. I also think, if you were going to require somebody to have a bookkeeper, releasing funds makes sense. They need to pay them. So that, I think we can't ask them to put that in place without also attaching funding for them to actually
No, the
hire
federal government does that all the time.
and pay the bookkeeper. Yeah. So I think what we would be looking for is a motion on the two, applications, the two housing related applications. That would be one motion. One motion, the second motion would be on sort of authorizing, new funding agreements to go out, basically shifting 25,000 out of operational support grant into the capital investment grant, for the Honker's Nest, so that those funds are being expended appropriately to pay for the, completed. And then if you want to release another portion, say another quarterly installment, I don't need a motion from that. I think you can just tell me to release that, because you've already approved the grant agreement that says that you'll release, that those funds have been committed. So, that would be my recommendation, to you all.
Okay. And that'll get them by, that'll help.
Yeah, because it would be, so if you want to do another quarterly, that would be $50,000 for operational support. It would be
And then they get-
25,000 to cover the costs that they already outlaid on the contractor. So that will come back into their, because part of the issue is they expended dollars to cover those contracting, whatever they had in their savings, is already out the door. So this makes them whole so that they've got a cushion sitting in their bank account to be able to operate from, so.
And that leaves a balance in the operational that hasn't been funded of how much?
That leaves, if you move the 25,000, it would leave 75,000 left in from the original commitment.
And then they would just need to come back and request on it.
The next quarter, yeah. Do I
And
have-
can they come back and request the playground and toy equipment from the special projects?
Yes, so those grant applications, like I said, will open up here in probably another month or so. And yeah, those are fresh starts for everybody. So people who have projects who qualify under those would submit their applications, same as they do every year. The operational support goes through and is approved by the budget committee,
And
as
they're
part
not
of the
having to
budget
take
process.
it out of the operational.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that wouldn't be diverting. That would be a new grant funding cycle that would start July 1.
Is Kelsey good with that?
Kelsey, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, I did try to apply for grants for new furniture and toys and stuff, but we're sitting here with hardly anything. So, and I was told by you guys in a Zoom meeting saying, hey, you guys deserve this money. It's about time Arlington gets money. And so we went big, like you said, to go big, and now we have hardly anything. We have broken furniture, which it's been like this for many, many years. So, I mean, I will take the funding, but it still doesn't help the fact that I've already thrown the stuff away. And then I have a playground that's literally broken and I can't have children go play on it. So what I'm upset about is the dates. The dates of those housing stuff was February and I submitted mine in November. So,
Okay. Commissioners, do I have motions to move forward on these recommendations?
I move to approve the fiscal year 2023-2024 cycle 5 capital investment grant awards as presented and to authorize county judge to finalize and execute grant agreements reflecting the same.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the fiscal year 2023-2024 cycle 5 capital investment grant awards as presented and to authorize the county judge to finalize and execute grant agreements reflecting the same. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then the second
So
motion?
do I need to add to this to release or?
I don't
just-
think, I
you
think
just
you
have
can
to
do
do
that
it.
by consensus if there's
Okay.
consensus of the court on releasing the next.
I move to approve 25,000 of the Honker Nest fiscal year 2023-2024 operational support grant award to be redirected to fiscal year 2023-2024 capital investment grant award to fund health and safety improvements at their facility and to authorize the county judge to execute amend grant agreements reflecting the same.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve $25,000 of the Hunker's Nest fiscal year 2023-2024 operational support grant award be redirected to the fiscal year 2023-2024 capital investment grant award to fund health and safety improvements at their facility and to authorize the county judge to execute amended grant agreements reflecting the same. Is there further discussion?
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor? We jumped for it. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And then the consensus to release the.
Yeah, and then Miranda, if you can just make sure that you note in the minutes that there was consensus among the court to release another quarter of the operational support grant. Okay, Kelsey, we'll have checks in the mail here in the next couple of days. Jed.
I take a minute just to thank you for support of the capital investment grant for Port of Arlington's project. We've held joint meetings over the last couple of years and have tried our best to sync our efforts. And I think this is a good culmination of that project where we had to resolve a lot of planning issues, design issues. And this gives it a leg up and a jump start to get moving forward with construction, design and construction. We have a county-wide focus and the county court has been supportive of our project with the Common Grade School as well. So I just want to say thank you. You followed your priorities with high emphasis on workforce housing. And you've been committed to that and have been supportive of us serving as a vehicle to help implement those projects together with PCDC. So I appreciate the support and the partnership that we've developed to make those things happen.
Thanks, Jed.
Thank you.
Yes, commissioners, would you mind if we took just a little break?
I'm good with that.
Okay, it's 11:43. I want to just go ahead and pause. Let's pause and come back at 11:50. That's okay to just stretch and take a quick bathroom break.
Thank you.
All right, it's 11:52. We're gonna jump right back in. We'll go into 7.4, which is discussion regarding planning department services. So as you guys know, our longtime employee, Michelle Colby, previously our Gilliam County Planning Director has resigned her position. She's over with McHead now. For those who are not aware, we're not aware of that. Her last day in office was on February 16th. I reached out to Judge Morley over in Wheeler County to ask if their planner, Matt Davis, would have the bandwidth to fill in while we're kind of figuring out long-term what we want to do with planning services. I was able to connect with Matt on Monday, and he has indicated that he is able and willing to fill in with us. So big thank you to Judge Morley and Wheeler County for helping out a neighbor. So because that discussion just took place on Monday, we don't have a final IGA. to share, but, there's a draft in your packet that mirrors, you guys may remember, this was maybe before Leah got on the court, but there's a period of time when, Wheeler County was without a juvenile director, and so we loaned Amy for a period of time while they were sorting that out and getting recruitment going. So basically what you have in your packet is the reverse, them providing planning services for us while we're sorting things out. It's still with legal counsel and it's still sitting over with, Wheeler County as well. They haven't gotten back. And so, I will tell you that spring is obviously coming because we've got a lot of people who've been inquiring about projects I think they want to get started this summer. And so what you'll see in here is just a request, that the court consider authorizing me to go ahead and finalize that agreement with Judge Morley and with legal counsel, so that if we are able to move it in the next couple of days, we can get that on board and servicing people who are right now waiting in the queue for somebody who has expertise to give them, planning direction. And then I'll go into the longer term sort of discussion and we can kind of go from there, but maybe we'll take it one at a time if you guys want to do that. Do interim first and then talk about options for long term.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm assuming you guys have no objections to us.
No, I do have a question though. What is the application process gonna be? Because I've had several phone calls from people that are wondering where we're at with planning, and I'm not even sure what to tell them with that application process or where to direct them.
So most likely what will happen is, assuming we move forward with the IGA, we will be connecting, right now, all of Michelle's out of office and everything is directing things to me. And so I've got a list of people who have questions and are waiting. And I've been telling them we're working on an interim solution. As soon as we've got professional staff who can answer their questions accurately, they'll get back to them. And so those will be kind of first up. I will tell you a lot of the planning inquiries that come on are not, most of these folks that are in the queue are not asking for planning application right now. They've got questions about, could I do this on my property or what would it cost? So, once Matt has a chance to kind of sort through these folks and kind of figure out who's actually ready to do an application, I think those can just be emailed to them, or we can arrange with Miranda for them to be able to pick them up locally. And then we'll just work out with Matt whether he wants us to shuttle them down to Fossil completed applications, but we'll figure out those so that folks can have a drop off that's local, that we can then connect with Matt. And then Matt will walk them through that process.
So how do we answer the questions that aren't applications?
Matt will cover those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I'm fielding calls for your planning also at this point because they're looking for direction. One thing that would really help, and it doesn't look like it, is you guys don't have your planning docs on your website.
Okay.
So if you could get, what's a conditional use permit, what the zones are, that would help a lot of the situation when they come to my office.
Okay. Did it?
When I last saw the IGA, it did not have a dollar amount in it. Does it now have?
It does not. We're waiting on Wheeler County, but it would basically be the rate that the hourly rate that they are paying Matt. So we would just be making them whole for his time that he's using on Gilliam County's
But
projects.
you're asking the court to approve it without a dollar amount?
Denny?
I'm just asking.
I am asking the court to allow me to work that out with Judge Morley, yes. Go ahead, Leah.
On behalf of Waste Management, because we are working on that special project down there, I just want to make sure that once you have that in place, I can make sure I have the information, because we did a huge amount of work with Michelle. And so having that to be able to continue on with it.
Yeah.
Getting the info on that.
And I'm pretty sure she handed that over to Garrett, who is the legal counsel that does planning for us. And so I think there was another issue, a partition that's also being handed by another planner, that Dan Meter is helping us out on that one. So the big projects that were already in the pipeline, Michelle kind of worked to hand them off. And so I think Garrett will still be the main contact on that one for you guys. And Matt will probably be fielding the other stuff since Garrett's kind of knows the history and is invested in that whole project.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, do you have questions or things you want to talk about with the interim solution?
No, but I would like to see language in the motion just to suggest that it would be set at the Wheeler County cost.
Okay. Do you guys want to make a motion on that and then we can talk about longer term options? Or do you want me to make the motion?
Let me see how, well, go ahead, because basically I just wanted to say that we do have a ceiling or a,
Yeah, so I would move to authorize the county judge in consultation with legal counsel to finalize and execute an intergovernmental agreement for temporary planning director services with Wheeler County. With the hourly rate being, the amount that Wheeler County, compensates Matt Davis hourly.
second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we authorize the county judge in consultation with legal counsel to finalize and execute an intergovernmental agreement for temporary planning director services with Wheeler County, with the fee being set at the amount per hour equal to what Wheeler County compensates Matt Davis, their planner. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so thank you for that. I think people will be very happy to know that we're restoring this as quickly as we can. And I'll touch base with Matt and Judge Morley this afternoon and just see kind of where they are in terms of timing. On a long-term scale, there's a couple of options before you. Before we just assumed that we were going to go out for recruitment of an in-house planning director, I wanted to at least raise the prospect of other options. And so I did reach out to Carla McLean, who is the city of Boardman's planning officer. Prior to her being here, she was Morrow County's longtime planning director. Just to explore whether the city of Boardman would be interested in providing planning services for the county. The reason I thought about them is because our building codes services are currently located there, and a lot of those go hand in hand. And so there may be an opportunity to sync those services. So there's a one-stop shop at the city of Boardman for planning and building codes together. I will say part of the concern I have about recruiting in-house or for an in-house person is that I think most planning departments across the state right now have openings, and all are having a hard time filling those. It's a very technical job, as you guys know, and not a lot of people interested in doing that sort of work. And so in particular in the valley and stuff where they're trying to move housing and other things, they're trying to staff up more planners, and that makes the job market really tight for us trying to find somebody out here who can do those services. So this is one potential option. The city did get back to us and indicate that they are open to the idea and continuing discussion. Obviously, that's a very preliminary, let's see where this goes kind of thing. But what I needed some direction and what I was hoping for today was some discussion on sort of the in-house versus partnering with an outside entity. And then if you guys wanted to pursue the city of Boardman, just kind of getting consensus that you would like me to continue with those discussions with Carla and the city administrator over in Boardman.
I personally would like to see you continue those discussions because she's really, really good, and it might be a really good permanent situation. I have concerns because of the shortage of planners in the state. And putting somebody in a position that requires a lot of legal assistance is expensive too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, she can do a lot of it on her own without having to call an attorney if we can. I mean, I think we have time if we can. We have time to, kind of look where we want to go on a permanent basis if we want to actually put a planner in, but, that would be, hopefully somebody with a lot of planning experience if we go down that road.
I will say too, I think, both cities currently, Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, that you guys are also using Dan Meter primarily right now. The city of Condon is as well. Anybody who's followed planning for a long time knows that Dan's tried to retire like 5 times now. And so, there may come a chance, I would just say this to you, Denise, as well. I've talked to Catherine about it, that if the city, we don't all have to go in together, but Carla did say that if either of the cities or both of the cities were interested, they are also interested in talking about all 3 of us, providing services for all 3, since everybody's building codes are with them. And so I've let Carla knows Dan too, because those planning circles are small. Just know that for right now, we're just talking about the county. But that obviously if you guys were interested as well, that would be something, that I think they're open to being part of the discussion. And I think from their perspective, they had talked about possibly hiring one more, planning staff that can split our workload. And then obviously there's a lot of development happening at the Port of Morrow that could help with some of their workload as well. So it could be a win-win for both entities to have that type of a partnership. Leah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we definitely need to, especially for the more, waste management type planning and stuff, that I would think that would probably be out of Matt Davis's
wheelhouse.
Yeah.
The thing Carla has done some planning work for us, as a contractor previously. She worked with Michelle on, I think an ODOT rock quarry or something that we were working on. So, the thing I do like particularly about going in that direction is that Morrow County has a landfill, has renewable energy, has a lot of the same things that are more tricky to plan for, in our county. So she's got familiarity with that. And if the cities were interested as well, I think their other planner that works under Carla focuses just on city planning, and so would have an expertise, because obviously that's a little bit different animal. So I also like the idea of having a team that can approach our planning instead of just
having
one.
them things that are not, or more day-to-day with Matt and.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the IGA right now, Matt is actually running for county commission over in Wheeler County. And so what he and I talked about was not having it go any longer than January. But that gives us a lot of time to have conversations with the city of Boardman and see if this is a viable option. So.
I want to reiterate, it is very hard to find a planner, because when Tennessee was in between planners, and I don't know if Denise, it's just very hard to find a quality one, and also one that can do some of the small stuff for our cities. It's, because it's just hard, so this is good. This is a good deal.
There's a lot of complaints around the state is struggling with it.
Yeah.
Lynn, did you have something?
Yeah, I just had a question. They're one stop, so they supply the inspections, the on-site inspections for the jobs and all that, or they're just planners, or?
So the county currently contracts for building codes with the city of Boardman. So when McCog dissolved, the state had it for a little bit, and we got a lot of feedback that was not working well. And so we had a discussion with the city of Boardman, and so their building codes official also does all of the inspections here in the county.
And so then how often would that official that does the on-site inspections be available for your end of the county and our end of the county? Is that, it used to be like we had to wait for Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we could pour a foundation only on Wednesday, because we have an inspector there to look at the form. So is that still the same way? I mean, that really adds cost to construction. When
Yeah.
You can't get your site inspected when you're trying to do a performance job, you know?
I don't know if we have any contractors or people who have worked with him, but we've been in partnership with them for
2 years, I
now.
believe it'll be May, 2 years in May, because I know it was when, when Big River opened up, there was some propane stuff and we actually got them to do some work down there initially to move that forward. So it was in May of 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
So how?
And before that, Lynn, the state had it and it was miserable for that reason. And I haven't heard any complaints in 2 years.
We just built the shop and they were there when we needed them. They come at least once a week.
Yeah,
More
once,
if
once a
needed.
week, don't.
More
don't-
if
yeah,
needed.
That doesn't do it for a
More
contract.
if needed.
Yeah, you need to have them
So it-
available at least 2 days a week.
Yeah,
Minimum, because you have certain steps that you do.
right.
So if you're ready to pour a foundation on Monday, what do you do with your crew till Wednesday?
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
like I said, we've been doing this for 2 years and I haven't heard anything. Now, if we get into more construction, maybe it'll become an issue. But, up to this time, I have not heard one complaint from anybody.
it'd just be interesting to know availability. from my
Yeah,
point.
I mean, the feedback so far that we've been hearing, is no one's had any issues with having there be significant delays with him being able to come out. So I think sometimes if it's not an urgent, he tries to combine trips, but we did talk to him, especially with a lot of the development at the north end, about the importance of that being inspected in a timely, we were talking in context of like Montec Solar and others that were going in that he was gonna have to inspect. And my understanding is that has been a very smooth process. If somebody knows otherwise, we'd love to take that feedback, but,
Probably China Creek would be the one to ask. They have done most of the construction lately in Gilliam County.
One of the things that I did, and because I got to be where I was a trusted contractor, where they knew that I wasn't trying to cut any corners, they allowed us to take pictures, and I don't know if they do that in Boardman or not, but you can take some pretty good pictures to find out where your steel is in your foundation, or what your structure looks like under framing and all that stuff. If your roof is covered, so you can get electricity, those are all just picture things, instead of having a guy drive all the way down there.
And I believe he does do some of that because I'm, with some things like my deck on my house and all that we had to replace a whole bunch of it, ended up being an inspector deal and it was all done over pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it worked out really well.
yeah, he's a nice guy and
Well, I
so far
remember
what I've heard is,
when Big River was trying to get open for the rodeo and they really stepped ahead of where we were at and took over early when we did that. So I haven't heard anything since, other than no complaints at all.
Would save money too for everybody if he could buy a picture as opposed to having to make a trip, you know?
yeah, I mean, it sounds like he's already doing that. Okay, so it sounds like direction, I have good direction. I will circle back with Carla and start those discussions. I will probably just, as I have something to report, just raise it, during our announcements until there's an actual agreement or something, with details for us to start digging into. In the meantime, for both cities, just a standing offer that if you guys at any point want to be engaged in those conversations, we would welcome that. Even if it's just, hey, in a year or a year and a half, whenever Dan decides he's officially retired, if you wanted to start those conversations early, you could do that, or you could also, let us kind of go first and sign an IGA and then come in later, if that's something that you're, think would be beneficial to the city. So, okay. Let's move on. Next thing is discussion regarding the outdoor library space. Okay, so just high level review for those who have not been following this. Back in 2022, Gilliam County, contracted with the University of Oregon landscape design student that the city of Condon actually found, named Jenna Whitselden, to really rethink or reimagine the lot behind the library here in Condon. So original vision was to provide electric vehicles charging stations on the east side of that lot. And then to extend the current green space, that there's a little bit of green space behind the library, to kind of extend that further into the lot, so that the library could potentially do outdoor activities, they talked about doing maybe like a family movie night and things like that, but just basically have a larger green space back there for activities. So what you have in your packet were those original drawings, which we sort of had a survey and kind of put it out to the public to give us your feedback on that. That was back in 2022. Based on that feedback, this was the design that most people coalesced around. And then what we decided at the time, so there's the EV charging, there's the green space, and then the sidewalk needs to be replaced along there. It's deteriorated for a long time. So what the court's direction was, is rather than pay for it all out of general fund dollars, we directed staff to go looking for grant sources. So Miranda landed one of those grants, which was just over $812,000 for the electric vehicle charging portions of the project. Since that time, of course, we're still chasing dollars for the rest of it. We've received some additional feedback from at least one council member for the city. And then the library board president, Gib Wilkins, asking if this is still the direction we want to go in. Do we want to do more parking? Do we want to sort of rethink the green space stuff? So the reason it's on the agenda today is that there is a Oregon Parks and Rec Department local government grant open that will be closing. The large one closes, I think, in early April, and then there's some smaller ones that close a little bit further into the spring. Depending on how the discussion happens today and what you guys want to do, that is a potential grant funding stream, but I don't want to use the time and staff resources to apply for it if we're going to change the project. So I needed some direction on, are we still going forward with this project? Are we modifying it in some way? And what we want to do next steps.
So since Catherine and I were in the conversation with the councilman, I would
No,
like
I will
her
say
input, because I don't know if we
Councilman
landed anywhere on what.
I want to clarify, he is a councilman, but I think this is his private opinion.
Okay.
It is not necessarily.
He
the
came
city
to
has
me
not
too.
discussed this, but, yeah. So that's all I'm gonna, I mean.
So,
Yeah,
so
because
what?
he came
what
to
do
talk
you
to
think
me.
The city council is, you had concerns that day, because we hadn't.
I had concerns the one day we discussed because of the way it was laid out. Is this the same day, using our alley? And that's not gonna work.
No,
Or it was
we've
the
already,
other
we've
day.
moved beyond that.
Okay, so I think, did I take it? I don't think we talked about it actually with the council. But I think they do want EV charging stations. And it's kind of up to the library what they want. I mean, Counselor Jameson does want parking and EV charging stations.
Yeah, that's what he
Unless
told me.
He believes we have enough green space already in town.
Yeah, that was his.
So, and I'm sure he told all of you that.
Yeah.
As the city is, we're just sitting on it. I mean,
Until it comes for planning, yeah, basically,
Until
until
it
it
comes
comes
for
in for
planning.
planning.
mhm.
Brooklyn has signed up to provide some input. Do you want to talk about kind of what your,
I have 2 letters actually to read.
yeah, come on up.
Yes.
Come on, why can't I just say them?
No, you come
One
in
of
the hot
these
seat.
is my personal response, Brooklyn Griffith, 12905 Buckhorn Lane, Condon, Oregon. So I'll go ahead and read my private response, and then I also have one from the chamber here on Naya's behalf, who today is only her second full day, so she's not here, just still kind of learning the ropes of the chamber, but we do have one written from her. Gilliam County Judge Farrar, Commissioner Shannon, and Commissioner Watkins. I'm here today to express my strong support of a green space behind the Gilliam County Library. As a member of this community, I believe that these green areas play a vital role in enhancing the quality of life for residents and visitors alike. Its location in relation to downtown, which this may be a little bit different if the EV station is going to be somewhere different, but I think that its location in relation to downtown makes it a great space for both an EV charging station to welcome visitors to our community and as an additional space to be enjoyed by readers, families, students, community members. With the old grade school currently being re-envisioned, who knows whether that playground will remain, which would leave really only two other spaces, in my opinion, where kids can imagine and create and play within, one being the city park, the other being the grade school, which as far as tourists goes, I don't really see them traveling up to the new grade school playground to take their kids out as they break on their journey through our region. Green spaces offer numerous benefits to individuals and communities. Access to green spaces can be linked to reduced stress levels, improved mood, and increased social cohesion. Moreover, we could be considered a green desert out here, in my opinion, and preserving those green areas aligns with broader environmental needs. These green areas enhance the aesthetic appeal of our community and contribute to its overall charm and character, which I believe is something that we all take pride in here in Condon. And I believe that our city and county officials both work tirelessly to support that vision of Condon. So why lose out on an opportunity to expand green space, arts, and culture within our community? I understand that there may be differing opinions on the matter from local officials. However, I urge the court to entertain the idea of seeking out funding to utilize the space for something more than solely a slab of concrete. As the grant application states, this is the most funding they've ever had, so now would be the time to at least apply. There is an opportunity here to consider alternative solutions that would better suit our community. I support the current outlined plan, which differs actually from what I saw previously when I looked at it last night. I think the style that was chosen is closely aligned with the aesthetic of our community and it showcases our region. It would be neat if local collaborations with artists and creators could happen during that project. It also appears that the space could accommodate some of the library's ideas, which is a slight adjustment to one of the areas within the proposed plan. If you haven't seen the plan, it's a green space with, at the end of it, a place for parking and the EV charging station. And there's like 4 different parts to it, which I think could easily be revamped to kind of fit in with what the library's ideas are. I think collaboration is key, and I think there are multiple partners that could be engaged in the project to better align with the community vision and ideas. The community meeting we actually have later this month comes to mind as a good place to brainstorm, even though it has been pushed out. In conclusion, I hope that the county court will take action to help create and preserve green spaces within our community of Condon. By doing so, we're helping ensure that all of our future generations get to have access to those items and have more places to be kids. That's my personal one. Now my chamber hat. Again, Naya wrote this, or Shania Drinkwine-Wagner, our new executive director, wrote this, so just have grace as I read through it for the first time. On behalf of the Oregon Frontier Chamber, I am writing to express our strong support for the approval of the Green Space Project behind the Gilliam County Public Library. We believe that this initiative holds significant economic and community value, and we urge you to consider its potential impact on our local businesses and residents. The creation of a green space behind the library presents a unique opportunity to enhance our community's overall quality of life while also driving economic growth. Green spaces have been shown to attract visitors, increase foot traffic, and stimulate local commerce. By providing residents and visitors with a beautiful and accessible outdoor space, we can encourage them to spend more time in our downtown area, supporting our businesses on Main Street and contributing to the vitality of our local economy. Furthermore, the addition of a green space aligns with our chamber's commitment to fostering a vibrant and livable community. It will serve as a gathering place for community events, cultural activities, and recreational opportunities, fostering a sense of belonging and connection among residents of all ages. Additionally, green spaces have been proven to improve mental health, promote physical activity, and strengthen social ties, all of which are essential for building a resilient, thriving community, like a broader picture, not just necessarily this green space. In conclusion, we believe that the approval of the Green Space Project behind the Gilliam County Public Library is a wise investment in our community's future. Not only will it provide economic benefits for our local businesses, but will also enhance our community's well-being and sense of place.
So just to clarify, the grant that Miranda and I got is designated for that area. That's where it has to go. To get that funding has to go there. And that process has already started. We're working through that because Oregon DOT is the administrator for that grant.
That's kind of what I thought, but
So
there'd
this
been like
is really the
discussion
about the area between the library and where the EV station will be. the other part of the EV is another discussion for later in the agenda.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and based on that, I'm in favor of moving forward as we planned originally.
And I think I asked you this before, how many EV stations is that grant gonna cover? Four. It's four.
I think it's two level threes and,
Threes and 2 4s.
and two twos.
No, they're not all twos. There's 2 fast chargers, one for sure.
Yeah, I think there's two, I think Jeff told me yesterday, there's 2 threes and 2 twos.
And then what kind of space are we left looking at?
Well, there's
between
quite a
the-
bit of area you have to drive by. I can't explain, but between there and where that starts, there's quite a bit of area. There's really kind of a green space now that we're looking at.
Yeah, the other day I drove by, there was a whole bunch of kids sitting on the little
Yeah,
flat
they,
concrete wall.
they're at the chamber too, that the garden space that's located, the mini garden, or mini park is highly utilized at that table during the summertime. Even in the off seasons, and I feel like a space there at the library, its relation to the hotel, it'll attract, visitors from the hotel over there. It's
Yeah.
right off of Main Street. It's another option for us to even look into partnerships to bring more arts and culture with the arts committee and as well as the historical society. I think it's just I would just encourage you guys to at least seek out funding. And then if the funding isn't there, then
Absolutely.
there could be something different. And green space, I think, is also, could be a little lenient because it's not like it's an additional space for somebody within the county or the city to have to take care of. They were native plants that were, drought resistant, and it wasn't like a green lawn. It was wood structures that kids could climb on, which would be neat if, I don't know if you could partner with SWCD or what the precautions are to use that type of wood, but juniper removal comes to mind. And being able to partner there. I think I like to see more arts and culture and green spaces in our community than parking, which is a silly reason because there's parking everywhere. Then
So they made the
Well, you make a good
big
point.
sidewalk.
He makes a
True,
really
I
good
will
point
say that.
about visitors at the hotel.
Yeah.
Right there in front of them.
And they've tried with that. They have a little space there behind that's all enclosed. Not saying this is enclosed, but
I've never seen anybody sitting there.
in the hotel with
Yeah,
their little
I know
dogs.
they've
don't know
made
if
that
they
little
have.
space,
Yeah,
but yeah.
well, they'll have a better.
There's a
space
lot of
across the
kids that
street.
use that library, way more than anybody realizes.
They have a lot of programs run out of there too, and
It would be a nice, they could do, story hour and stuff out on the lawn, and they can do, family movie night and a bunch of other things that they just don't have the space for right
Yeah.
now out there. Jed, do you wanna?
I think there's been some chat.
Yeah, so I was gonna flag that, you can sit down if you want to.
Thank
You
you.
can stay up if you want to, but you don't have to. You're looking uncomfortable. So Amy, Nation had, chimed in for what it's worth. If it was put out for input by the public and most wanted the green space, it seems sad to change the plan. I also selfishly would love to see more space and opportunity for our youth and families. And then, Shania Drinkwine Wagner had also, chimed in saying, I, as a community member, would truly love to see a green space in that area as well. I think there are so many benefits to adding it to our community. And then wanted to just give you a shout out, Brooklyn, that says great ideas, Brooklyn. I really like the juniper idea. Okay, so
There's a little bit of that around here.
it sounds like you guys are okay with keeping this as intact. Who would like to talk to Counselor, Jameson?
I will.
Okay.
I talked to him.
I'll be at the meeting tonight, actually. Maybe I'll just pass this letter out to them.
I'll tell you, you should have been at the county court meeting.
Yeah, okay, so what we will do, Mary Buser was just chiming in and said that they had 15 kids after school students there
Yeah.
yesterday. So that's a lot of kids using that facility. Okay, so I will, with Miranda, we'll kind of, dig in and see there's like 3 grants that they have open right now, so we'll try to figure out which one kind of works best. And then we'll let you know if we're successful. Have we, on the EV stuff, have we heard any more from ODOT on like when they're gonna release funds and what?
This is gonna be a 2-year project. That's part of why I wanna have that discussion in the other.
We've had an initial kickout call, we're just waiting for.
Yeah,
next
waiting for
steps from-
feedback from them.
Okay,
I've been participating in those with Miranda when we're in it. it's gonna be a drawn out process.
I know a guy that might be able to come up with some juniper.
Don't need it for the EV charging.
No, but for the green space.
Well, maybe we get started on the green space earlier.
Yeah, you might get
and,
your corrected. Might
And
get
then we
started.
just.
You know how the state runs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's great. We've got direction on that. Let's move into 7.6, which is consider approval of water purchase agreement with Kevin Hagewood. So he contacted us requesting renewal of the water purchase agreement for water from the well at Shetler Station. We had an original agreement that began back in December of 2018. It was extended several times. It expired on December 31st, 2021. And so the draft agreement that you have in front of you mirrors those original conditions. So the rates are established. The county court actually passed in 2010, the water rates resolution. So this has to mirror what that resolution says. But I will note that the agreement says the county court can update that resolution at any point, and then the rates are updated when that resolution is updated. So if at any point the court wants to adjust those rates upward, that would be the vehicle to do it, and then that will automatically translate into increased rates on this contract. The agreement can be terminated by either party within 30 days. I wanted to flag that because he has requested a 5-year agreement. And while we don't, works fine right now when we only have one tenant at Shetler Station, but if there's future development down there that needs significant water usage, then that would give future courts an out if they need to accommodate a new investment at Shetler Station. Water removed from the well must be metered and reported monthly, and I already noted that he had requested a 5-year term, which is what's in here. Legal counsel reviewed the draft agreement that you have, so questions about it?
No, I have talked to Mr. Hagwood. And I move to approve the water purchase agreement with Kevin Hagwood as presented.
I'm questioning the 5 years, but, is that kind of standard?
The
Is it usually
original,
3?
I think the original agreement was actually like 6 months. That,
It wasn't very long.
yeah, it was,
very short.
that was under Steve. And then we were doing 6-month extensions. I think originally it was probably tracking whatever project was being built at the time. And so I am guessing he's anticipating, Oregon Trail coming online in the next couple of years, any repowers that might end up needing, I don't know. So that's why I'm guessing the length is not necessarily continuous use for the next 5 years. It might just be the fact that like Oregon Trail won't probably be built for another however many months. And, so, yeah.
Okay.
We don't have a kind of history in it, but like I said, if the court needs to get themselves out of that for another, there's another demand on the water, there's an out for that for a future court, if they need it, to be able to do that.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the water purchase agreement with Kevin Hagewood as presented. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving right along into, thanks for being here.
Yes, of course.
I'm
very hungry.
Moving on to 7.7, consider approval of Gilliam County Public Transportation Vehicles purchase. Todd, do you want me to do
You can go ahead with what you've got there.
this? Okay,
I'm just here more for the charging station up at the new facility.
got it. Okay,
I've
so.
got the information there for you.
So in your packet, back in May of 2023, we actually approved the purchase of 2 new vehicles for public transportation. We ran into some problems. One, we had some staffing transitions that had happened. But in addition, the previously approved vehicles did not have the required, ADA and hybrid requirements. And so we have not been able to complete that purchase. In addition to dealers just not, if they've got something in stock, Todd will come to us, say they've got it in stock. By the time the county court meets, it's no longer in stock. So we've been running into that as well. Just supply issues on vehicles, has also been a problem. So Todd's got, contacted 3 dealerships requesting new quotes from, for the Toyota Siennas that meet the hybrid and the ADA requirements. Those are in your packet. Northwest Mobility and Northwest Bus Sales both, provided quotes. Rogers of Hermiston, declined because they can't do the ADA conversion. So the recommendation is to approve the ones from Northwest Bus Sales. And then just a note for those who are interested that these are all paid with funds from ODOT. So these are ODOT grant dollars that need to be expended. You guys have questions on these ones?
And this removed the going and picking them up, right, Todd?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, no, they removed them being delivered. We will go pick
yeah,
them up.
so we'll go get them.
And save the cost of this, a lot cheaper for us to go get them than to have them delivered.
Yeah. It was gonna be like 1,500 to,
Have them delivered?
yeah,
Each.
we were like, okay, we can just go get them.
Yikes.
We can go a
Um,
road trip.
do I have a motion to approve the purchase?
I can do it
Your
here in a
department.
second. Let me get back up to the top. I was looking at the van.
Did I include too much documentation?
She just scrolled to the
No, I
bottom and now
scrolled
the
to the
motion's at the
bottom.
top.
There we go. Okay. I move to approve the purchase of the 2023 Toyota Siennas from Northwest Bus Sales in the amount of $76,700 each, and to authorize the public transportation director to execute the purchase agreements.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the purchase of 2 2023 Toyota Siennas from Northwest Bus Sales in the amount of $76,700 each, and to authorize the public transportation director to execute the purchase agreements. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this was an addition at Commissioner Shannon's request, the EV charging at the bus barn. Do you want to kick this off?
Well, I guess the first question maybe we need to consider is how long is it gonna take for the bus barn construction to be complete before we'd have a usable EV charger there, so we could compare that to when the others would be in.
So I talked to Jeff about this yesterday. He thinks that the bid documents will likely go out early April. And so I would expect them breaking ground this summer and probably being wrapped by the end of the year. Is that what you're thinking, Todd?
I would hope for that. I'm thinking it's gonna be earlier in 26, depending on weather conditions, or the tail end, depending on what they get.
25, you mean?
25, you mean? Oh,
Yeah.
Don't give us the hard one.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, he was saying the bid documents are, but this question on whether you want EV charging or not. So there's 2 options. He and I talked through the fast chargers, the phase 3. Will add considerably to the cost of the project.
200 to 300,000.
Correct. And the level 2s, I think, are closer to like 10 or 15,000.
Actually, I think it's the other way around. Level 2 doesn't charge as fast. The level 3 requires a complete power bid changeover. I was talking to,
Right.
about that.
That's what I said, right?
That's
So
what you
like
said.
the,
sorry.
so like the 2s are gonna be like
Okay.
about 10 to 15,000. The 3s, which are the faster ones, and the chart, and we have to get Columbia Basin out there to do all that.
So my question was, cause he came with a 2 and a 3 and what he was talking about for the 200 or 300,000. Did you get that? It looks to me like we need one level 3. We're,
Yeah, like I say, you'd have to ask Jeff for specifics on that.
and then I think and you'll have to help me with this, when did DOT think we would be at completion of the other project? Remember,
2025.
at the end of 2025 or start?
Right.
So potentially, we could have one charger, if we want to spend the money, set up at the bus barn at the end of that project. And I'm gonna still say it's at least $200,000 for one charger
It is for a level 3.
for level 3. Or wait another year till the others are in. It'll be, most of 2025 before the full unit was in down here. And this was a request from several community members because they're struggling with what is available today. And it's not a fast charger. And, it was like, what can you do now to get one going? We looked at the courthouse, not enough power up there, so there's more expense in doing that. And this seemed like a logical location for me if we think, what we'd be 9 months out,
Yeah.
having one in place.
I mean, the thing that Jeff and I talked about yesterday too, is thinking about, it really makes sense to have the level 3s downtown. Cause people are charging, they're getting out, they're having lunch across the street, they're seeing what's downtown, they're maybe stopping in the store and picking something up. I really think probably the folks who are, obviously they know there's a level 3, they'll go to it up there. But in terms of long-term, I think the people who are most likely to use it are gonna be camping at Burns Park, plugging it in overnight, taking it, and so we kind of talked about geographically where it made sense to put which chargers, because you are kind of, when you're out there, you're then stuck. You're not probably gonna walk into town. Maybe some people will, but a lot of people are probably just gonna hang out at Burns Park while they're charging. So, and then there is the cost involved as well, whereas the level 3s are already paid for down here through this other grant, and whether we wanna take on that expense, which would definitely be county expense, to cover those. So, the level 2 is relatively, but I think we need, in order for Jeff to be able to put out the bid, he needs direction on whether that needs to be in the plans or not for a level 3, because that's a whole different, thing that he's gonna have to put in, accounting for the electricity and everything like that, so.
Well, is there a place at Burns Park that it could sit that would be a faster fix?
Well, you're gonna have the power issues there too. I'm
Yeah.
sure. And getting enough power to run a level 3. I don't know. I really don't care to weigh in too much because I'm never gonna use it.
Yeah.
It's not something but I do know that there's gonna be some people, and we do have some residents in town that, and I don't know what the quick fix is to bridge that gap between now and having. I don't know what.
The
You
tow
go
truck
the level
drivers will
2,
tell you it
if
needs
you
to
go a
be sitting
level
at-
2, you're gonna have people sitting up there for longer with nothing to do.
Yeah.
And if you do a level 3, they can pull in and charge up and move on.
You could always put the underground infrastructure in. Put a level 2 in, and then as things progress, pull that wire out and put the wire in. You just have to have the infrastructure under the ground. And replace it with.
Well, and a level 2 would be a big advantage over what we got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would at least have that, and then you have the option of putting in
And are you talking about at Burns Park or at the bus barn?
at the bus barn,
Okay.
at the bus barn.
That's logical at the bus barn,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
They're gonna have to run heavy power into the bus barn anyway.
Mhm.
That would be the time to go ahead and
Do it.
and pull the wire.
Yeah, and the other thing that it'll allow is Jeff and I talked about making sure that those spaces, they're not gonna be ADA spaces, but they would be compliant with ADA as well. So we'll design them to be compliant with that. It's a lot harder to do that, trying to make it work on, we'll have a fresh surface, to work with on the bus barn. Rather
Well,
than trying to,
the other probably consideration is the state of Oregon gonna force government entities to run electric vehicles at some point. and then-
2050 probably.
And then
Yeah.
we're gonna have to put them in there and even have a transportation department.
yeah, and we did explore, cause we had discussed this amongst the court, several meetings back about putting one at the courthouse, but that we just can't support it with a level 3. There's not enough power up there. So,
If I may,
yep,
just to address that, the bus barn is set to have, the plan now has 2 level 2s inside. We'll have them not in place, we'll have the power for them. Because of that, if we put the.
Which that'll work for the transportation
Right.
department, level 2s would be fine.
Vehicles. But because of those two, if we're gonna put the, phase 3 outside, the more powerful one, we will need a power upgrade. And what he's asking for is, can we do that, and find the funding to do that when we do the build, so we don't have to rerun the wires later.
So what's you guys' opinion on, is it worth it for a year earlier to get for a couple $100,000 to get a level 3?
I mean-
Kind of like this.
personally, I don't think it is. I think that the plan that we have, that we just talked about for the green space, is the place where those chargers are gonna get the most use, and also allow people who are parking and charging to spend some money locally, which is added benefit. And,
Well, and if the bus barn gets delayed,
yeah,
Yeah, then I mean, we could be spending $200,000 and then we've got it covered anyway a few months later.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I would definitely suggest putting in
level 2,
the level 2s, because that's, I mean, $15,000 in a $2 million project is,
not a big deal.
not a huge amount, to, have that capability, so. And I do think, like I said, over time, there'll be people who are at the fairgrounds for events and fair and other things that can charge while they're, participating in things going on up there.
Okay, we'll proceed that way.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's move on to new business. 8.1 is consider approval of resolution number R 2024-03, declaring a county vehicle as surplus equipment. So this is a 2003 Ford E35 van. The van is 21 years old. It's approximately 166,801 miles. Compared to its useful life, this is the one that came back from, or came back.
Yeah, it was assisted back before I was.
It was on a tow truck. when
So
it
for
hit
the
our
record,
engine.
this did not, we
Just
were,
for record.
this was on loan to another county years and years ago. They finally said, here you go. And then basically Miranda and Delaney went to pick it up and only then learned that it probably shouldn't be driving, and it made it to the gorge.
Well, the
And they
mechanic from
called me
Coos
and
Bay
made me
followed
pick
it to
them up.
Salem.
Yeah, and so, yeah, it had to be towed into Arlington, so we
Yes.
really have used its useful life. Dana?
Does it come with a tow truck there?
No, the tow truck dropped it off and went back to where it was from.
This is gonna be a tow your own,
But it
situation, I
hasn't
think.
moved.
But they were all like, what is this thing sitting here?
And it hasn't moved since.
Poor Miranda.
tried to get it as close as I could.
She was getting panicked. She was gonna get let down there on I-5. She was just glad she got on this side of the gorge.
I move to adopt resolution number 2024-03 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution number 2024-03 as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on. 8.2 is discussion regarding Bottom Miller and Weatherford Roads paving project. Pat or Dewey, who wants to
Yeah,
kick
what-
this one off?
Well, Dewey's gonna weigh in on this, but basically, Avangrid has asked us if we would pay Bottom Miller and Weatherford Roads. Partially because of the new project that's going in and partially because of Montague Solar. And said they would pay us $100,000 for a project that will cost the county, Dewey's estimate is $721,399. And, they're spending or have spent, or it's a rumor is, I can't confirm that, Hagwood right now about $100,000 for water in those roads. So I think we need to determine, obviously by paving those roads, it's a benefit to the county in some form. But what should we ask Avangrid, because that's not near enough money to ask, and they need to ante up and pay for more of it.
Well, and especially considering the amount of tax breaks that this county court, the previous county courts have provided to them. I mean,
It'll probably eventually get paid someday under the county road paving plan, providing we can keep funding in place, but it's not when we have target to do this next year, right?
No, it was on my plan to do, and how this came about was in discussions with the new project manager for the Oregon Trail site, was I asked him, I said, what are your future plans for expansion? Because that seems kind of the direction they're going, and he said, well, he really couldn't say. And he, why do you ask? I said, well, because when you guys are done, I plan to pave those roads for the public. And that's when he came up with the idea, well, what if we assist?
They just did their usual, not much assistance.
yeah.
And Commissioner Shannon, he wanted to bring this up and
I just think we need to arrive on a, based on Dewey's estimate, do we want them to do 500,000 of it, or the whole thing, or less than? And what are you guys weigh in? I think a minimum of 500,000, and I'm not object to telling them to pay for the whole thing.
Some context, so that you guys know that Avangrid has also reached out to us about asking for tax abatement on their next repower. So that's just something to throw in the mix.
They wanted to do a SIPS program on the repowers, so that.
They want the red zone. So they want
On a repower
on a repower, they want they're gonna ask for a 5.
Which
But
project that?
it is Lean Juniper 2. So they are basically, Chet and I have been in discussions with them to even see if they can legally ask for
I
it.
don't think they can ask for it.
They can. They can, but there's another issue with the red zone, which we'll probably get into in another meeting, which is that so the red zone is capped at 250 million. They exhausted the 250 million with Montex Solar. So the court would have to redesignate a red zone in order to allow it. And so there's a bigger discussion coming about this, but it's relevant because they are also right now asking for multi-million dollars in tax breaks on Leaning Juniper 2. So I wanted to throw that out because that's coming. And so that you knew greater context for them helping out is that they're also right now asking for millions and millions of dollars in tax abatement on Leaning Juniper 2. So, that will be like probably later in the summer when they actually come to see us, because we're still working out with legal counsel, but legal counsel initial read is that the state would likely allow it under current statute if there was a sufficient cap left. There is not sufficient cap left right now. So they can't red zones are automatic, but they've exhausted the limit with Montex Solar. So it's not automatic in this case. They would have to come to us and ask us to redesignate it.
A different area.
Yeah.
Well, it's, they don't even designate areas in the red zone,
It's the entire county,
It's the entire
but you
county.
just layer another red zone over the top of it, apparently is how it works.
Didn't know that.
So anyway, I was surprised that it is allowed, but based on what
I'm surprised it's allowed in wind.
yeah, apparently it's that a motor component ticks it as a new investment. And,
Motors only used for starting.
Yeah, my concerns are, I think that even in their land lease, and I don't know the facts on land leases, but they're a couple $100 below where they should have been on.
yeah,
Royalty.
well, regularly,
What everybody else is paying.
Avangrid is the only company that consistently asks for us to take a haircut.
Well, we are in a position, I know today with my position on Korea, in a really good position with developers that they've never been in before. And I think when they originally came in, it was hard to understand everything that was going on, but we got pretty good understanding of, they need us more than we need them, right? With what's going on.
Particularly with, I mean, a repower, because they did,
I'll have a hard time with that.
and the timing is, I mean, that SIP, the Lean Juniper SIP is rolling off right now, so they're about to be fully taxed on it, and that's why they're asking for the abatement to come in on a repower.
Well, and
And
I
we-
rode to Arlington Dewey last night, and potentially it could be more than the $721,399.
Brookfield
paved
did that for a,
No, nobody has asked for us
they
to,
did a much bigger
to
repower.
abate a repower.
Yeah.
This is the first time somebody's asked us for it.
I would be more leaning towards them paying the total cost.
That's kind of how I feel.
Me too.
They can spread it out over multiple projects. They've got multiple projects, and I actually expanded it to where it will take in multiple projects and just do it one time instead of piecemealing it.
Yeah.
So can you just go back to them and tell them the county wants, if they want that paid now, then they need to pay for it.
Okay, yeah.
I think we're in agreement.
I agree. I think, I know that there's gonna be a request next meeting related to, Cedar Springs. I think there's other things that the community has highlighted as needing the county to look at, prioritize, and I would hate to divert funds that are needed for those other projects for this when Avangrid is fully capable of helping to shoulder
And
more.
and I'm not, even with what we know about paving before the last repower, that it'd be better to pave after they're done with construction than before.
The solar projects are lighter projects.
Yeah, they won't be as bad.
They won't be near as bad. Basically the same volume.
Well, and if we would chip seal sooner, that would.
And
be-
yes,
yeah.
yes, and this, there's a chip seal plan in this, it will be done.
But yeah. See what you can find out.
Okay,
I mean, I think that would be your recommendation, wouldn't it? Dewey?
yes, yes.
Having to pay for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And like, we'll do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just not for 100,000.
We're going to repave, re-road. After the falling of the construction project of a road we already paved and chip seal it, but Brookfield's paying for it,
Yes.
Yeah,
the whole thing.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't
And
want
that's
to,
an
we don't want to
example.
start
That
a,
should be an example you use with them that.
Yes.
we don't want to start something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, Avangrid's the only one that comes and asks us to take a haircut.
And Brookfield was tickled to death to pay for it, so.
Okay, let us know what they say.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dewey.
All right, let's move into 8.3. This was added by Commissioner Shannon, the sanctuary county stuff. I'm curious what this is.
Well, I'm not a big fan of social media, but I got tangled in one the other day that came off of Fox News.
You
Every
don't say.
county in the state of Oregon is a sanctuary county. And I haven't followed up, maybe Denise knows. Do you know if the city of Arlington did a resolution
We did,
to state that you are not?
yeah, so did a lot of the eastern cities.
It would be cities, because they stated that every county was, and I would be in favor of getting a resolution in place that we are not a sanctuary county.
We're talking about, illegal immigrants. Is that what we're talking about? What are we talking about?
Status.
Whatever that term means.
Whatever that
For
status.
the people that use it.
Oh, yeah.
If you go on the Oregon State website, they have a place there that says Oregon State is the sanctuary state, and that happened in 1987, according to what I found when I looked up to see. And so I've known it for a while because talking to Gary Betancourt, it affects what they can do with illegal immigrants when they catch them on the freeway doing things. And that it's been in effect for a long time.
And I don't know that a resolution changes any of them, just makes a statement, but.
Okay. Is there?
And I know that might not be on your political side, but it is on
Hey,
mine.
listen, my job is to put things on the agenda and you guys vote on it how you see fit. Is there a,
I would make one ex-commissioner that comes in and sees me regularly, probably happy.
is there, or could you track down, Pat? If somebody else has done one of these, if
I
you
think
could
we can
find
get,
some.
can we get a copy from the city on what,
I'm sure that you could, probably just need to go through Ruben or Carrie can probably track
See
it
what
down.
they
It was
did.
a few years ago when we did it. I'm thinking maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
I think that since this is out, you're probably gonna see some Eastern Oregon counties that this becomes a topic.
Okay. Well, how about this? You find us a draft, get it to Miranda, we'll get it on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, we'll move into anything else on that one? That will be coming back on an agenda in the near future. Okay. Next one is announcements and next meeting. So I already noted before that there is going to be an executive session on the 18th of March to conduct the final couple of interviews for the hiring committee's process. And so those will be noticed. The court will not conduct any business or make any decisions during that meeting. It's just so that you know, see that notice, what that's for. The next regular meeting will be March 20th. That one will be in Arlington at the Quorum building. Pat, what do you have going on?
The road advisory and CAC work session meeting was held last week and got together to talk about Cedar Springs Lane. That's gonna be coming before the court pretty soon. That's also one that I'm going to have to recuse from. With waste management involvement in that one. Been participating in the Eastern Oregon caucus calls. And, was on the Condon Can meeting last night that, will update on what's going on with that and scheduling their, what do you call that, Catherine? The meeting on the 18th or the get together on
It's a
the 18th?
community meeting to
Go
move
through
forward with
go through
getting
the process.
mission statements and moving forward with what we're gonna, what we want to look like in 25 years.
Korea and a couple of AOC meetings on Friday. I'm gonna plan on being in Salem on Monday for the AOC session down there and the lead session. AOC summit on the 18th for the Health and Human Services, the 5th summit meeting for that. And for anybody that wants to know how I arrived at the motion I made today on 2023-01, I would be happy to explain how I got there. I've been there for a while, so
So see Pat after the meeting.
I'm welcome to.
Anything else? Denny?
I'll wait after you commissioners do. I just want to bring something to your attention.
Okay. Leah, go ahead. What you got going on?
I met yesterday with, Lisa Helms, the administrator at the Health District now, and Daleen and Nicole Schott, and they have been working on the book system for the, Health District, streamlining it, added some account numbers, and with the help of Nicole, hopefully making it better for the board for looking at it as far as budget purposes and stuff like that. So they've been working hard to do that. I think they're looking at spending their money on hopefully the cover that they have had it sitting that 60,000 and some other money that they got from the modernization. So I think we put them together with the county procurement attorney. So anyway, they're humming along. So, and then I attended the CAC meeting last night. Dewey and I took a trip down there and we went to that. I thought we had good discussion regarding the relocating maybe the Cedar Springs Road and some alternatives that we can do maybe in the meanwhile. But other than that, just busy stuff, and I gotta go visit Todd afterwards. And I would like to publicly thank Todd for all the hard work he did at finding vehicles that fit what the state grant was, 'cause I don't think that was easy, so,
It was challenging, I think.
yeah. So he kept with it, and actually found a couple different places, so, which was not easy. And that's about it.
Let's see, for me, I am not sure if I will be at AOC on Monday. I've not decided if I will go or not. The 911 board has its meeting on Tuesday, the 12th. That'll be here in Condon. And we are still trying to reach a consensus with the new union regarding that contract. And so that is still pending. And we are also, as a result, because we don't know what dispatchers are going to be making, that's
What's that again?
the dispatchers for 911 decided to form a union. And so we're in the process of finalizing the first contract with them. And, but because it's not final and we haven't finalized pay structures, it's challenging to recruit new dispatchers because they don't know what they're going to be compensated. So hopefully that is resolved soon. And you already heard that we're working on some housing solutions for new dispatchers and for the contractors who are currently coming in to keep the lights on in the PSAP. Other than that, I did mention the Avangrid stuff. I have a meeting with them next week to kind of dive in a little bit more. I am expecting them to make a formal request of the court, probably later this spring, early summer. We'll see what they decide they want to do. And we'll have a more thorough briefing and all of that, but that is forthcoming. I think that's it. The Rocket Group is continuing to meet on a regular basis. Yeah, I think that's, we did meet with the contractors yesterday at the courthouse. That is moving along pretty smoothly. I think we're still on schedule for completion in early April. We're trying to prioritize the new ODOT or DMV space so that they can provide services in April. But we will let you know. We have an alternative date if something goes haywire and the contractors can't get them in soon enough. They will probably come mid-month instead because we've been without DMV service for a couple months now. So, but hopefully they're going to be on track to have the next DMV day be on that first Monday or first Thursday in April. I think that is, go ahead.
I've got one more, and I think this is right, Jed, but the McKed deal slowed down a little bit while they're waiting to get support letters in from all the counties in McKed for us to move into McKed, but they have rescheduled the economic development discussion over the strategic plan for Gilliam County for Tuesday, March 19th from 1 p.m. till 3:30 in the Gronquist building, right? Jed?
I think so. They rescheduled 3 different times.
So that's something that be nice to get some participation in, what we want, long-term strategic planning around economic development, because we will go into their strategic plan. And I got a executive board meeting with them tonight, so I'll find out a little bit more about that process.
Can we share their economic plan, right? Can we put it on our website, the kids?
I'm sure you probably could.
Okay, I'm just thinking if we're gonna go into that district, we best get
Yeah,
the word out.
It'd be a public document.
it's a public document, I
Okay.
think, so. Danny,
So from your last meeting on the 7th of February, there was discussion of a contract. It didn't go beyond that. and I've provided notice through Miranda that some of the public record that attended that discussion has been removed from public record. And I fully understand the reason for some of it. Not that it is proprietary information, but it actually would show the hand of a prospective contractor down the road. That part I understand. I don't necessarily like it, but I understand it. What I don't understand and what I take exception to is that there were two elements of record that were this court's record that have nothing to do with what might have been proprietary or competitive information provided by that contractor, if you're following me. And what I would ask is that is that attachment, agenda item 5.2 from the February 7 meeting be returned to the website, and that the resolution 2024-03 be returned to the website, because both of those are county generated public documents.
I'll have to look at it. See what's in there. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? If not, it is 1:10 and we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.